Chapter 388. My lord, can I suggest something to you? Maxine asked when Michael was about to leave the room. Michael turned his head to look at her. Go ahead. Instead of buying a warship from Giselle, we should buy one from the pirates' yard. They have more choices. Michael thought about it for a few seconds before turning the other side to look at Gibson. What do you think, Gibson? Lady Maxine is right, Lord Lucifer. Pirates build best warships in the entire southern continent. What Gibson said didn't surprise Michael much. There was an unwritten rule about a kingdom having naval power in the southern continent. If one kingdom began to build its naval power, the 3 pirate captains would wage war against the kingdom and destroy the kingdom before it could become a threat to them. This was how the pirates have been ruling the oceans of the southern continent for hundreds of years. The combined power of the pirate lords was not something to be taken lightly. Some senates wanted to increase their air force by building flying warships, but the pirate lords made an example of them by destroying the kingdom overnight by pillaging and destroying the kingdom. Each kingdom was allowed to have only a small number of warships and airships. The pirates didn't care about soldiers and ground forces, as no matter how many soldiers a kingdom had, without enough warships, they wouldn't be able to touch the pirates in the sea. Since you were a pirate captain served under Corey, I assume you have some contacts in Pirate's Yard. Maxine nodded. Speaking of Corey, who are the other 2 pirate lords? Gibby's Blackmane Jet, Hobson Rum Lover Vance. Michael took a mental note in his head. Previously he heard about the pirate lord Maxine was serving under Pirate Lord Corey Witchdrachen. Most of the pirates tend to have a nickname between their first and last names. The name varied from something that expressed great feats to great shame. Either way, almost 90% of the pirates had a nickname. Where are they now? Michael asked. Instead of approaching them with hostility, he first wanted to try to make them his allies. Killing them would be as easy as crushing an ant to him, but getting the loyalty of their underlings and dealing with the revolution afterward would become a headache to him. Corey is on her own island, north of Pirates Cove. It's called the Witch Island. Michael listened to her with his head resting on his fist. Caius, you have an airship? Of course, he has, Tiberius answered before Caius could open his mouth. Good, then we use that and talk about solving your problem in the ship. Michael closed his eyes behind the mask, willing the system to unequip all the Lucifer armor and equip a brown long coat, white loose shirt, black pants, and black boots. The system also equipped the facial mask and changed his real face to make him look like someone else completely. Except for the color of his hair, everything changed, including the length of his hair. His hair instantly became shoulder length as most of the men in the southern continent. Sadie was stunned to see his face without the skull mask. Of course, she knew this wasn't his real face, yet she was stunned to see the face without the mask. He looked rather normal, not like someone who would catch the eyes of a girl instantly, such as Ghost or Noah. Lead the way. As he stood up from the throne made of skulls and bones, the throne vanished into thin air. Caius quickly nodded, stood up, and then began to lead everyone towards his personal airship. How is your kingdom shaping up? While following Caius out of his room towards the airship, Michael asked Tiberius. Instead of addressing it as a village or a town, Michael addressed it as a kingdom. In the future, Tiberius' kingdom would become a huge part of his army to conquer and defend the entire southern continent from the Guardians if they chose to attack. We are still at war with the senates of the other 3 kingdoms, Lord Lucifer. They are still hunting everyone who dares to rebel. The gladiator schools are spending so much fucking gold to prevent anyone from rebelling against their dominus. Caius, after listening to Tiberius without showing any expression on his face, Michael called out Caius as the senator turned back to look at him. Let's walk and talk, Michael said, preventing Caius from halting his steps. Then they began to talk while walking. How long will it take to visit each of the other 3 Senate-ruled kingdoms? Caius could sense the air become chilly. He even slightly shuddered after hearing the question. 5 days if we used full speed. I can spare 5 days to fix Tiberius' problem, Michael shrugged. No one dared to ask how. Even Tiberius remained silent, but he could kinda guess what was about to happen to the senators. To be honest, Tiberius couldn't care less about the corrupted politicians who supported the Spartans and Dominus, killing hundreds of slaves all over the continent. After taking the mantle of leading the freedom fight, he cared about every single slave. He made his life purpose to erase the slavery from southern continent. Sometimes even Tiberius would wonder what made him like this. Perhaps the death of Doctorus, or perhaps his muscle sickness, or just anger towards the nobles who enslaved them. What about you, Sadie? The girls, how are they holding up? Sadie sighed. Better than they were 2 months ago. They are still traumatized, but those girls are strong, stronger than me, her voice stuttered. Of course they are. You were wasting your life in delusion. Welcome to the real world. Gibson was stunned. He was kinda hoping Lucifer would say some calming words to her. Instead, he uttered the words that made Sadie's eyes water up. People like guardians will only care about you as much as they can use you. Their care and considerations end where the benefits stop. Turn the tables, use them before they use you, and throw you away like trash. Although the Silver Moon was on the right track, they still weren't using the Silver Moon girls to their full potential. Silver Moon was basically a huge spy agency with extreme potential to collect information about anyone or anything. They lacked the leadership, gadgets, and tactics to extract information to their full potential. If Michael could place Sadie as the next sect leader of Silver Moon, he would then show her the ropes and receive hundreds of spies. How? Sadie asked. Her voice stuttered. Become the next sect leader, Michael said as though it was a simple matter. He knew Silver Moon is not a sect like Sunrise Sect to change the sect leader just like that. However, with Sadie's loyalty towards him, he could infiltrate the sect and get the sect under his thumb little by little. Eventually, they climbed the stairs to the top floor. The Spartans were staring at them but didn't dare to stop and question Senator Caius. After climbing the stairs for a few minutes, Michael finally saw a door blocking their way with 2 Spartans with spears standing on each side of the white door. Senator, Senator, the 2 Spartans stomped the spear on the ground as their version of bowing. Then one Spartan opened the door to reveal a giant airship on the other side. I never flew in a blimp. The airship in front of him reminded him of blimps. It looked exactly like a blimp. The golden paint almost hurt his eyes with its bright color. Several Spartans and guards of Caius were patrolling around the blimp. From the balcony, Michael could see half of the kingdom. The outfit of Arya, the rugged look of Tiberius, the beauty of Sadie immediately attracted the eyes of the soldiers. Especially Sadie, few soldiers stopped patrolling for a moment to just stare at her. Ignoring the soldiers, Michael followed Caius. When they came closer to the blimp, a servant girl wearing a brown maid dress pushed a button as steps came out from the blimp's side. After climbing the stairs, Michael got into the blimp and was quietly stunned by the interior. He felt like he was transported back to Earth as the interior reminded him of the interior of the private jets. The golden chandeliers coupled with glass tables and comfy white sofas made the spacious interior feel cozy. Tiberius' jaw almost dropped seeing everything before him. Unlike Michael or Sadie, he had never seen something so fancy. Michael saw a minibar with a who seemed to be the bartender, a glass round table in the center, probably for Caius to plan something, several silver orbs attached to the ceiling as well as a rack filled with books and parchments. Everyone out, Caius ordered with a domineering voice. The maids and the bartender quickly cleared the area, leaving them alone. Where to, my lord? Caius asked. Rather than taking out the throne and sitting on it, Michael sat on the single-seater sofa beside the window. Get us as close as you can to Pirates' Yard, Caius nodded before walking towards the far end of the blimp. Take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. One by one everyone landed their butts on the sofas. Several moments later, Maxine broke the awkward silence. What's the plan, Lord Lucifer? Gibson was really surprised to see how Maxine could easily talk to Lucifer. Every time Lucifer's eyes land on him, he would feel a shudder in his heart. Nothing much. Just going to take over the 4 Senate-ruled kingdoms within 5 days. The words that came out of his mouth stunned every single one of them, including Maxine. Michael kept cracking his knuckles one by one, looking at the figures of the soldiers gradually becoming smaller and smaller. When he took his gaze away from the window, everyone saw his eyes glow in pure crimson red for a few moments before becoming normal. It had been almost 18 months since he came to this world, and finally, he decided to be on the offensive against the Guardians instead of playing defense. The southern continent would be the first to bow to the Dark Lord and be ruled from the shadows by Michael. We are the Order of Death. Chapter 389. In silence, they flew towards the pirates' yard where the pirates had been building their pirate ships. Considering Michael lost control of his anger, leaving the third persona to come out, he decided to resume meditation. He used to meditate every day when he was on Earth. Now he has started to meditate in this world too. Caius or anyone would guess whether he was sleeping or just enjoying the peace and calm with his eyes closed. Nonetheless, they didn't dare to utter a word to disturb his peace. Through the window, Tiberius saw nothing but an endless ocean. There were several ships, including merchant ships, small fishermen boats, as well as a man of war in the distance. Eventually, after flying for a couple of hours, clusters of little islands and rock formations began to appear in their sight. As they continued to fly, they saw several warships patrolling in formations as a gigantic island with numerous ships docked appeared on the horizon. Boom, boom, boom. Michael's meditation was interrupted by thunderous booming sounds. Everyone except Maxine quickly looked through the window to see the patrolling warships getting into formations and firing their cannons. Tell your driver to stop the airship. This is as far as we can fly, Maxine calmly said without even looking outside. She just stood behind Michael's seat as though she was his personal guard. Finally, Michael slowly opened his eyes to see everyone looking through the window. He turned his eyes, getting a view of the pirate ships lining up to shoot the airship down if they flew any closer. Sadie, Tiberius, and Caius stay here. We will go and deal with this. Really? I always wanted to fight the pirates, Tiberius sighed as Sadie elbowed him gently. Yes, my lord, you'll go tell the driver to put us down and prepare the boat for you, Michael nodded at Caius. While they were waiting for the pilot to lower the airship, Michael saw more and more pirate ships appear on the horizon. Quite a welcome, Michael smiled looking at the warships waiting to destroy them. There were at least 50 warships including frigates as well as galleons. This airship has the crest of Gisel on it, Lord Lucifer. It's unusual for a Senate ship to fly to pirates' yard. Pirates tend to follow the fire first and ask questions later policy when it comes to the outsiders. Gibson nodded at Michael while Maxine was explaining, I am pretty sure those idiots are itching to fire us down as we speak. So we better leave the airship and tell the senator to fly back to a safe distance. With a nod, Michael stood up from his chair. He turned his gaze towards Arya, then at Tiberius. You two should talk. After all, you have someone in common. Leaving the airship, Michael ended up on a small boat that had only space for 3 people. Michael was sitting on end, Gibson on the other rowing the boat towards the warships while Maxine remained in the middle. Since they were using a rowboat, the pirates didn't shoot them down but waited patiently, letting the rowboat near them. My lord, shall I introduce myself to them? Maxine asked Michael. Before joining his ranks, she was an infamous pirate captain named Marina, the Iron Fist. Almost every pirate in the southern continent heard or knew about her because she had sunk hundreds of merchant ships and army warships alike under the order of pirate Lord Corey. She was a feared pirate captain. It had been 2 months since she had seen her crew. The last time she saw them, she ordered her crew to station at the pirate cover with her ship. She commanded 15 ships, but they didn't belong to her. Rather, those ships and crew belonged to Corey. Go ahead before someone gets trigger-happy, Michael calmly said. Gibson saw no fear in his eyes at all despite being facing 50 warships. He was calm as the sea, no fear or any emotions could be seen on his face. Even with spells, Gibson doubted if he could take on an armada of this size. However, after seeing his calm look, Gibson asked himself the question, is he more powerful than we realize? Lower your cannons and let us pass through, idiots, Maxine's shout reverberated the sea. A few moments of awkward silence filled the area while Gibson stopped rowing the boat. Suddenly the brigades blocking their path slowly moved aside, forming a path for them to the island. Good, you idiots still have some brain inside you are thick skulls, Maxine yelled again before sitting back on the boat. While rowing through the brigades, Michael looked up at the ships and saw the pirates staring at Maxine with wide eyes. In their eyes he could see fear and respect. The pirates' yard was a giant island that had several shipyards. Everywhere he turned, he could see ships being built and repaired. The smell of oil and gunpowder overwhelmed his senses. The sweet sound of a hammer hitting the iron, log sawing and chattering of the pirates offered a rather charming experience to Michael. They were rowing towards the dockyard where several crates were stacked on each other along with several barrels. There were hundreds of pirates running around the shipyard. "Dock the boat here," Maxine told Gibson as he docked the ship with several other fishing boats the same size as their boat. Michael stood up, jumped on the dock with a swift leap. Then he reached out his hand to help Maxine. She was surprised but ended up grabbing his hand to get onto the dock. "Don't mind me." When Gibson was about to reach his hand too, he saw Michael and Maxine turn back to walk away. Fortunately, the water was not too deep. Therefore, he stepped out of the boat, dragged himself through the water, and climbed the few steps to reach the wooden platform. "Lead the way," Michael said to Maxine. Since she seemed to know the layout of the island more than him and Gibson, he let Maxine take the lead while he just followed her behind, looking at the surroundings. The island was not much different than any tropical islands on Earth, but with lots of ships, barrels, drunken pirates fighting each other, and few anchors buried in the sand. As he was following Maxine behind, he saw a lone pirate with a Cuban cigar in his mouth approaching them with a sly smile on his face. On the other hand, he had a bottle of rum. The man had shoulder-length greasy hair that seemed like it did not see the sight of a comb for at least a decade. The scare that ran from his upper left eye to the upper right corner of the mouth gave a ruthless look to him. He flaunted his chiseled chest and six-pack abs while walking towards them. A tattoo of a flying eagle could be seen on his chest along with a dagger. "It isn't the famous Captain Marina herself?" The man took the cigar out of his mouth. "Wow, I wouldn't have recognized you if it wasn't for your face. What happened to you? You've been eating less?" Michael did not react at all as he remained behind Maxine without uttering a word. "Or did you become poor after deserting Pirate Lord Corey's fleet? What the fuck do you care?" Marina snickered. Just by the exchange of these words, Gibson could tell the two of them have some bad blood between them. "I have 100,000 reasons to care." The smile on his face grew wider. "Someone put a bounty on my head, I assume." Maxine shrugged without a shred of worry. "Aren't you a smart one?" The man put the cigar back in his mouth. "You can try putting your hands on me." Maxine cracked her knuckles as the man just shook his head. "I would love to, especially now you aren't as fat as you were. Luckily for you, Pirate Lord Vance ordered us not to take on the bounty. So if I were you, I will get on that ship of yours." He looked at the rowboat with a mocking smile on his face. "And row as fast as you can away from the continent. Get out of my face. We have a ship to buy." Maxine waved her hands off as though she was shooing him away. And just as she was about to take a step forward, the man burst into laughter. "Buy a ship? You have no idea what's going on, do ya?" Maxine frowned, clenching her fists. She wanted to punch the smug off of his face. "What?" She didn't hide the annoyance in her voice. "No one is selling ships here or anywhere for that matter. Every single ship's being built is going to the Pirate Lord themselves. Since you abandoned your ship, crew, and Pirate Lord Corey, you are not getting a new ship, baby, no matter how much you pay." Michael had a weird feeling listening to the man. Also, he was getting annoyed as he wanted to grab the man by his neck, beat the hell out of him, and make him spill out what was going on. "Some moron king from Azer is sending a war fleet into the Void Line. They might be big assholes on the other side of the Void Line. Since they are coming to our world, we are going to tear them a new 1-inch." The trio was surprised, including Michael himself. He wondered who dared to cross the Void Line, battle with pirates, and hope to win in their own territory. "What king?" Maxine asked. This time, her voice did not show any signs of irritation but curiosity. The man closed his eyes, looking as though he was picking his brain to remember the name. "Major Thusia?" He snapped his fingers as he opened his eyes. "Thusia? Kingdom Thusia?" The mere mention of the name made Michael clench his fist. His heart began to beat faster and faster. Gibson noticed Lucifer starting to breath faster as well as the clenched fist. "Calm down, Michael." Michael ordered himself in his mind before the other persona took control over his body. If that persona came outside, the entire island would be painted in red with their blood. Fortunately, his extreme control over himself, as well as the meditation, kept his anger under control. Chapter 390 New Ship I, So the pirate lords are going to war with a cultivation kingdom, Maxine frowned. They were the morons who suddenly cross the void line and sink whatever pirate ship they see. The man let out a puff of smoke as he continued. Anyways, it doesn't concern you anymore. If I were you, I will get out of the southern continent as soon as possible. You are not me, Xin. But if you don't like being who you are now, I can remodel that ugly face of yours. Maxine cracked her knuckles. The feeling of the Dark Lord standing behind her gave her immense courage to take on not only Xian, a pirate captain under Pirate Lord Vance, but also the pirate lords themselves. For the pirates and anyone in the southern continent, the pirate lords were not someone they could touch. However, in front of the Dark Lord, they were as weak as a newborn child. With a single spell, Michael could kill the pirate lords. You are not Pirate Captain Marina the Iron Fist anymore, just Marina. You are not worth fighting. Maxine clenched her fist tightly as she looked like she was about to punch him in the face. Gibson decided to take a step back, letting Maxine take care of Xian. However, when she was about to raise her hand, Gibson saw Michael step forward. He put his hand on Maxine's shoulder, calming her down instantly. Thank you for the information you provided. Have a nice day. Xian creased his brows. He thought the youngster behind Maxine was just a lackey of hers, but seeing how he placed his hand on Maxine's shoulder and calmed her down, he realized that he was not a mere lackey. Let's go. Michael took the lead. Rather than wasting time with Xian, he walked away from the pirate, taking Maxine and Gibson with him. While walking away from Xian, Michael could feel the pirate's gaze on him. Gibson was baffled. He thought Lucifer was going to mercilessly kill Xian, yet he did not only kill him but also talk to him with respect. He had never seen Lucifer act so modest towards someone else until now. Still, Gibson was not stupid to think Lucifer was afraid of Xian. As far as Gibson was concerned, Xian was lucky not to get himself killed. In silence, Maxine and Gibson walked beside Michael. A few moments later, Maxine opened her mouth, decided not to speak, and closed her mouth. She kept opening and closing her mouth. She wasn't afraid of talking to Michael but was afraid to question him. Michael noticed the way Maxine has been acting. He is just a small fry, Maxine. Killing him would unnecessarily make us enemies with Vance. He is not worth it, Michael calmly said. But my lord, Maxine talked quietly, you can kill the pirate lords within a few seconds. Give me the order and I will take them out. The medallion of Order of Death gave her inhuman strength, to be exact, a strength of a body refining stage level 3 cultivator. In the southern continent where everyone had no cultivation power, she was a superhuman indeed. Nonetheless, Michael had a feeling that Maxine alone wouldn't be able to defeat the pirate lords. If they were so easy to defeat, they wouldn't have been ruling the seas for more than 5 decades. If I wanted them dead, they would have been dead by now, Michael said. The noises around them prevented anyone other than Gibson and Maxine from hearing the words coming out of Michael's mouth. Killing them would create a power vacuum. Everyone under the 3 would want a piece of the power. Eventually, the struggle for power would create many factions, internal wars. A kingdom like Wuxia would use this opportunity to either destroy the pirates once and for all or take control over them, which would make Wuxians even more powerful than they are right now. Maxine listened to his words in silence. She never thought killing the pirate lords would be a bad thing, but what he said made sense. Also, pirate lords are the ones keeping the kingdoms in the southern continent from building their own armadas of ships. Without them to keep them under control, each kingdom would go crazy with warships. If they build a naval force along with their air force, every kingdom would turn into a threat to us. So we need to make a subtle approach with the pirate lords. While listening to Michael, Maxine led them through the muddy streets toward somewhere. They passed a couple of taverns where they heard loud singing sounds and smelled the overwhelming scent of booze and pirates. My lord, if I may. Don't be afraid to ask questions and tell me what you think, Maxine. I want to lead lions, not mindless herd of sheeps, he said, seeing Maxine being afraid to question him. She wasn't afraid to talk to him but scared as hell to question him. He preferred his subordinates to be more vocal, using their brain rather than following him blindly. Although Michael was an expert in planning, conquering the world wasn't his forte. To become the Dark Lord, first, he had to become a good leader, and any good leader would listen to the people under him. That was one of the differences between a leader and a dictator. Yes, my lord, Maxine's fear disappeared after hearing him. Gibson also felt somewhat relaxed. How do you plan to deal with the pirate lords? They won't bend their knees, my lord. Those stubborn bastards would rather die than serve someone else. That's where you are wrong, Maxine. Everyone has a price and a weakness. We just need to exploit one of them. I will show you. After buying the ship, we will deal with Corey. Michael cracked his neck. Time to undo that bounty on your head. In addition to Corey's decision to put a bounty on Maxine's head, it was her name Corey Witch? Dratchen that made him decide to meet her first. He was curious to see why she was being called Witch. Since Michael encouraged them to be more expressive about their questions, Gibson wanted to ask about Wuxia. When Xian told them about Wuxia, Gibson noticed a change in his calm face. However, before Gibson could ask Michael questioned Maxine, I assume you are leading us to a place where we can still buy a ship. Maxine nodded. A shipbuilder named Welton owes me a favor. Is it enough to disobey the rules set by the pirate lords? Michael asked. It is, my lord. If it wasn't for me, he would have been shark shit by now. With a nod, Michael followed Maxine. On his way, Michael saw several frigates, schooners, galleons, and even a man-o'-war being built on the shipyards. Some pirates were ripping apart the hulls, cannons, and masts for spare parts. On the other side of the streets, he noticed several weapon stores as well as forges. Almost all the forges and weapon stores were full. All the blacksmiths seemed to be working on cannons, probably for the upcoming war. War is always profitable, he mumbled under his breath. Spectre, his mentor, always used to say this. Eventually, after a few minutes of walking through the muddy streets, Michael saw a huge hangar where he saw numerous pirates running around doing various chores such as carrying wooden logs, welding iron, rolling cannons, and sawing giant wooden logs. There were 2 frigates inside the hangar. One was being built. It had a glossing hull, new shining brown paint job with several drawings of which seemed to be a kraken, thick brand new sails. The ship seemed to be in the last stage before its first voyage. The other ship which remained beside the ship looked exact opposite. Compared to the ship the pirates were working on, the other one looked like a beggar. It looked ancient with its battered hull, torn sails and half-destroyed figurehead which looked like a crying lady with wings. Nevertheless, the damaged one was bigger in size compared to the brand new one. It could hold more cannons as well as crew members. Any sane person would choose the brand new one as the other one looked as if it would sink into the sea if being put on the water. The pirates were too busy to notice the trio entering the hangar. Maxine led them towards the far end of the hangar. They were walking between the 2 frigates. Gibson was staring at both the ships. Neither of them couldn't be compared to the Silent Reaper in terms of size, power, or anything. The Silent Reaper didn't belong to specifically any class, but many identified it as a war galleon. Thinking about Silent Reaper, Gibson sighed. The ship was stinky, nasty, and filthy, yet it was his home for the last 2 decades. Overnight, the Guardians destroyed it into bits and pieces. Even Gibson, who respected the great clans, wanted to destroy the airship that destroyed the Silent Reaper. Since they were here to buy a ship, Gibson began to look at the brand new ship as he completely ignored the old one on the left side. Michael, on the other hand, was looking at the ancient-looking ship. It kinda reminded him of the Black Pearl. He ran his fingers on the tattered hull with a smile. Usually, in the novels he read, the ignored or rather normal-looking things would end up as the ancient things that hold unlimited potential. When the main character finds the item, he or she would see the OP-ness of the item. It would serve the main character in the future after restoring it to its former glory. Yet, this ship was neither OP nor an accent power. Rather, it was just a damaged frigate. If Michael wasn't an inventor, he would have obviously gone with the brand new one. Since he was an inventor, he was able to identify which ship could be upgraded easily. The brand new ship could be upgraded, but not as much as the old one. Every single component of the old ship could be upgraded, unlike the brand new one. It's time to put my inventor skill into more use. Chapter 391. Michael was not in a rush to meet Welton. He was patiently looking at all the nooks and crannies in the ship. The ship seemed to be armed with 42 12-pound cannons, 24 on the gun deck and 18 on the upper deck. At the moment, There were only holes in the place where the cannons should have been. Obviously, the pirates ripped her apart for parts and only kept the ship for some sentimental value or something. Gibson was too focused on the brand new ship. He was almost certain that they were going to buy this ship. Hence, he didn't notice Michael studying the old ship without even giving a look at the brand new ship. As Michael was counting the cannons, they came to the back of the ship. When they turned the corner around the ship's backside, they saw a group of 3 pirates discussing something. When the pirates noticed the trio approaching, they quit talking. One of the 3 pirates opened his eyes wide the moment he saw Maxine. Nothing special about the man. He was neither too tall nor too short, medium built, wore a white loose shirt that was soiled with oil, dirt, and grease which turned the white into a brown. Looking at Maxine, he scratched his stubble brown beard with a solemn expression. The tension was visible to the naked eyes on the man's face. "Welton," Maxine put a phony smile on her while greeting him with a wave. "What the heck are you doing here?" Welton asked in a husky voice. "Nice to see you too." Maxine rolled her eyes as Welton quickly rushed towards the other side of the old ship to hide from the others. When they disappeared behind the old ship, Welton began to talk. "Get out of here, Marina. You already fucked me up by coming here." Welton didn't even look at Michael or Gibson. He seemed more focused on chasing them away. "I'm here to call in the favor, Welton. I need a ship and you're gonna provide us 1 inch." The moment Welton heard her, Gibson could see him literally shudder. "You crazy? I can't give you a fucking ship. They will hang me alive. Don't you know what the fuck is going on here? All the ships are going to the pirate lord themselves. If they knew I sold a ship to you of all people, a deserter, they will skin me alive." He was frantically shaking his head. "What about this one?" Suddenly Maxine and Gibson saw Michael stepping up into the conversation. "Huh?" Welton was confused for a few moments. Gibson couldn't believe Lucifer was looking at the old ship instead of the new one. "You owe her your life, but since you can't give us a new ship which would make you lose your life, why don't you fix her up real quick and give her instead?" Although Gibson had way too many questions, including why the heck does he want the old ship which looked as though it would sink into the sea the moment being put on the water, he chose not to question him in front of Welton. Gibson was sure that Lucifer would kill him if he questioned him in front of Welton. "Who the fuck are you?" "Doesn't matter. You have 100,000 bounty on your head. Although no one would touch you on this island thanks to Pirate Lord Vance. If anyone had seen me with you, the moment I step outside this island, I am dead," Welton said looking around. "What about you repairing the ship for us to escape to the southern continent and we will give you 100,000 gold coins for your risk?" "Whoa, don't fuck with me." Welton was taken aback by surprise. He literally took a step back after hearing the offer. Then, the realization hit as he snickered. "You take me for a fool? You will give me 100,000 gold coins for this piece of crap? One-time deal, take it or leave it?" Welton gawked at Michael in disbelief before turning his gaze towards Maxine. "You have my word, Welton. Do this and we will never meet again." For a few moments, Welton just rubbed his beard, pretending to ponder. Michael was not stupid to think he was actually thinking of whether to take the deal or not. Obviously, Welton decided to take the deal. Who in the right mind would refuse such a deal? "Looks like this is my lucky day," Welton chuckled inside. Gibson and Maxine were oblivious to the evil plot Welton just hatched in his mind. "Come back with what you promised in a few hours. The old Bertha will be ready to set sail then. But remember, she won't be battle-ready. She will only get you out of here if you don't meet any pirates on your way." Welton looked at Michael rather than Maxine. He could tell the youngster was the one calling the shots regardless of standing behind Maxine. "That's enough," Michael nodded. "Paint her black. I can do that." For the first time since they met him, Welton grinned. He was too excited to become rich. Of course, Welton knew there was a possibility of them lying about giving him 100,000 gold for the old Bertha, but it didn't matter. If they wanted to get out of the southern continent, getting a ship was the only way. And no one on the island would give them a ship except him. "We will come back in 2 hours. I assume she will be ready by then?" Michael asked. "Yes." Welton nodded excitedly. There was no need for them to know that Bertha's keel was split, as any moment the whole ship could fall to pieces. He would just need to fix the keel enough to get them off the island. Few logs would do the trick, he thought. "I will be back." Michael turned back. making his way towards the outside. When no one was around, he quickly flicked his wrist as a notebook and a quill appeared in his hand. "My lord, why did you choose this ship?" Gibson couldn't hold the question in his mind any longer. "She looks like if we put her in the water, she would sink any moment," Gibson said, sounding as if he was pleading not to buy the old one. "I'm sure Lord Lucifer has seen something in that ship that we didn't. In simple terms, both ships are upgradable, but the new one is not as upgradable as the old one." Gibson had no freaking idea of what he was talking about. "System, so the price of becoming a blacksmith is still 700,000 badass points?" "Yes," Michael sighed. Alchemy was great, it had helped him in a lot of ways. Yet it couldn't be compared to forging. The advantages of being a blacksmith outweighed the advantages of being an alchemist. Coupled with his inventor specialization, he could do so many things. The only obstacle that prevented him from becoming a blacksmith was the price. To become a 1-star blacksmith, he would have to pay 700,000 badass points. This was why Michael considered recruiting a blacksmith subordinate and making him or her 5-star blacksmith, because the cost of making a subordinate 5-star blacksmith was 1.2 million badass points according to the system. Compared to becoming a blacksmith himself, it was cost-effective to recruit someone and make him or her a 5-star blacksmith. System, you said it's 60,000 badass points to upgrade inventor skill to the 4-star, right? Does the system wish to upgrade? Let me see the benefits first. Star 1, the host will be able to build basic tools and day-to-day items. Star 2, the host will be able to build basic gadgets such as night vision goggles, lasers, etc. Star 3, the host will be able to build complex gadgets such as eavesdropping bugs, micro cameras, trackers, etc. Current level. Star 4, the host will be able to build new and antique firearms such as crossbows, mini crossbows, limited shots revolver, cannons, etc. Star 5, the host will be able to build various types of new gadgets and weapons. The host is required to either have a 5-star blacksmith or become a 5-star blacksmith to unlock the Star 6 inventor trait, cannons. That's just the thing I want now. System, upgrade it to the next level. Wonderful. Immediately the next moment, Michael felt a sharp pain in his brain. It wasn't enough to halt his steps, but just made him crease his brows. With this upgrade, he got 200,000 badass points. What's the cost for the next upgrade? 180,000 badass points only. Shit. Michael wanted to upgrade the skill to 5-star. However, he had a feeling that he would need the badass points when he reached the Akulon realm. Hence, he decided not to upgrade the skill just yet. "Guys, let's go shopping." With a grin on his face and a note in his hand, he exited the hangar to go on a shopping spree. A few hours later, Welton was standing in front of old Bertha. The new black paint job didn't exactly make her look brand new, as one could still see the sorry state of the hull and the ship as a whole. Perhaps Welton was too lazy, or he didn't care enough to fix the tiny holes in the hull. He only patched up the giant holes in the hull with wooden planks and nails. Since this was a backdoor deal, Welton didn't keep anyone with him. He sent everyone on a break, so he was alone. Bump. After waiting for a while in excitement, Welton finally saw the 3 of them enter the hangar. The man beside the youngster and Marina carried a giant chest, which instantly put a smile on Welton's face. "Took you long enough. Let me see the coins." Gibson put the chest on the ground, letting out a heavy breath. Welton did not waste any time as he immediately opened the chest. The moment he opened the chest, his mouth opened wide as the chest was filled with glistening gold coins. They reflected the light, making his face look golden. Welton was drooling so much to notice Michael running his fingers through old Bertha's hull. "Diddle diddle." Suddenly Michael's voice drew the attention of the 3. Welton looked over his shoulder to see the youngster smiling at him. However, the smile was not a warm, friendly kind. Rather, it was cold, devilish, and murderous. Chapter 392. No one had any idea about what those words meant. It seemed like he was chanting something. Gibson felt the air around them become chilly. Moreover, Gibson saw his eyes flicker in crimson red. Gibson and Maxine unconsciously took a step back. Welton noticed the youngster's eyes flickering. He was confused as he saw him get closer and closer. "We are so little." The moment these words came out of his mouth, Gibson saw Lucifer grab Welton by his neck. He lifted him off from the ground, slamming him against old Bertha's hull. Echum. Welton struggled to utter a word. I told you to repair her, not hide 26 pirates inside her to kill us. Maxine and Gibson was stunned. Welton's eyes opened wide in disbelief. You signed the death warrant for 27 pirates today. Crack. Welton's frantic struggle came to a halt as his neck produced a cracking sound. His eyes were still wide open when he hit the ground. My lord, Gibson shuddered. Maxine, get her on the water. Gibson, go tell those pirates to put everything on the deck. Michael didn't bother telling why he killed Welton. He just gave them an order, flicked his wrist, willing the system to put the gold-filled chest into the system storage, grabbed Welton's body, and threw it on the deck with a swift jump. Michael landed on Bertha's upper deck. He walked towards the rudder before holding the rudder, which reminded him of Silent Reaper. With a sigh of breath, he turned back to see a barrel on the corner. Conveniently for Michael, when he opened up the barrel it was empty. Looks like this is your fancy coffin, buddy, Michael snickered. He then picked up Welton by his collar, putting him inside the barrel. After hiding the body, Michael walked around the upper deck. If it wasn't for his X-ray eyes, he may have not found the pirates hiding in the lower decks. Those visions enabled him to see the armed pirates hiding beneath him. It was obvious Welton was planning to get the bounty amount as a price for the ship, then kill Maxine, get another 100,000 from Corey. Michael was not stupid or generous enough to give him 100,000 gold coins for the old ship. He planned to beat up Welton and then get the ship and go. However, Welton's ambush plan made Michael take his life. As far as Michael was concerned, he could let go of 100 enemies but not a single traitor. His focus now turned towards the hooks attached to the poles. They were holding the ship from sliding through the slop to the ocean. You are a lucky girl, Bertha, he talked to the ship while making his way to the metal hooks. I'm going to make you a super OP ship and avenge the Silent Reaper. He removed the first hook from the mainsail pole. He continued to remove hooks while he saw several pirates entering the hangar carrying huge crates. Their biceps were flexing as the frowns on their faces indicated how heavy the crates are. One by one the pirates put down the crates. My lord, can you throw down that rope attached to the lever? Gibson shouted from the ground. Here. With a kick, Michael sent down the roll of ropes to him. The pirates along with Gibson tied the ropes around the crates to lift the crates up. If Michael used arch energy, it would not even take a minute. He could just put the crates inside the space ring, jump onto the deck and retrieve the crates out of the ring. My lord, suddenly, Michael heard Arya's voice in his head through the earpiece. What is it? There are several war frigates surrounding us. Don't move, you'll be there. As he said, he jumped down. Gibson, give them something and see them outside. Hearing Michael's serious voice, Gibson realized something was amiss. He quickly nodded before giving a pirate a pouch of gold coins. Share the tip. Thanks, man. The heaviness of the pouch immediately put a wide grin on the pirates' faces. In addition to the hefty tip, it seemed like they didn't have to put the heavy crates on the top deck, which meant less work for them. It's done, my lord, Gibson said while Maxine walked towards the crates to help Gibson. Both of them saw Michael wave his hand as the crates disappeared from their sight in an instant. The very next moment, he grabbed both of them by the coolers. Ah! Shit! Both Maxine and Gibson cried out aloud when Michael leaped into the air with them. In a second, they landed on the upper deck. Get to the rudder, we are leaving, he said before leaping into the air once again. This time, they saw him land on the crow's nest. He did not give a damn about the pirates hiding beneath. They would be thinking they are going to ambush them surprisingly. Rather than worried about war frigates surrounding the Caius airship, he was excited. Corey, is that you or one of the others? Michael cracked his neck before clenching his fists. Maxine made quick work on the sails. Since the hooks were off, sails were ready to open and Gibson was at the rudder. Old Bertha just needed a push to slide through the slope. Wind blast, a powerful gust of whirlwind fired out of his hands. The whirlwind of wind blast was so powerful that it shook the entire ship. The creaking noise appeared as well as they felt the ship moving. The ship purred as it slid forward slowly. The entire ship trembled. The poles and every nook and cranny in the ship let out a gust of dust. Is that old Bertha? What the fuck? Is that Welton's piece of crap? Shit, run. The ship immediately caused a commotion on the streets when it left the hangar. Someone dashing away from the way while many were pointing out at the ship and speculating. Michael hoped Welton idiot did a better job fixing her than he did with his ambush plan. He still wasn't aware of the main issue of Bertha. A ship's keel was like the spine of a human being. If it was split in half, there was no fixing the ship. With a few plants and metal plates, Welton patched her up temporarily. Fortunately, it was enough for Bertha to stay afloat instead of sinking into the ocean. The sails slowly opened, putting a smile on Maxine's face. Even Michael had a grin on his face. He couldn't help remembering the Silent Reaper. Although the ship was nasty as hell, he missed the ship since it was his first ship. Back to the airship, standing on the crow's nest, Michael ordered Gibson. Now that they were on the ocean, they could see tiny figures of ships on the distant horizon. The crow's nest enabled Michael to see the airship more clearly. There were 5 war frigates surrounding the airship as they slowly sailed towards the airship. Michael leaped down onto the deck without even using the arch energy. He landed comfortably. My lord, the pirates? In the below decks. Kill them all and bring their bodies to me. At that moment, his eyes completely became crimson red. Michael noticed the change in his eyes. He wasn't using eyes of darkness, yet his eyes were turning red without his control. It was a sign of him becoming the Dark Lord he was supposed to be. Michael knew this. He had no problem becoming the Dark Lord. Even before he knew about the prophecy, he was planning to rule the world from the shadows. However, he had problems with people judging him from prophecies and divinations. Unlike what they were thinking, he wasn't planning to destroy the world. Why would he want to destroy the place he plans to rule? As far as he was concerned, if there was one ruler to the entire world, the kingdoms would stay united, no wars, no hunger, and the world would actually be peaceful. Even to this day, Michael had no idea what the Guardians and Skyhall did 21 years ago to him and Diana, his birth mother. He thought he was born on Earth, came to this world because of the system, and got his soul transmigrated into a brass body. He had no idea he was in a rude awakening after reaching the Ukulun realm and getting to know more about Skyhall. For a battle-hardened warrior with the medallion that gave inhuman strength and speed, killing 25 pirates was not a difficult task. Drink this. With a flick of his wrist, Michael retrieved a vial containing a glistening blood-red potion. Maxine did not even ask a single question as she gulped the potion in one go. He was glad to see such loyalty from her. The potion you just drank will give you speed, strength, and quick reflexes for 30 minutes. Hunt them down. The blood-red potion was called the Berserker Potion. It would temporarily enable the user to achieve a Berserker state which would triple the strength, speed, and speed of reflexes. The only drawback of the potion was it could only be used by a body refining stage or anyone under the body refining stage. After sending Maxine down decks, Michael walked towards the rudder stage. When he reached the steps, he just sat on the stairs. My lord, did you go there? Some war frigates surrounding the airship. Lucifer's calm face gave Gibson strange confidence. Regardless, he was sailing basically a naked ship towards war frigates. He wasn't afraid at all. Boom. Arg. Kill her. Bitch. Shit. They began to hear cries of agony coming from below decks. Gibson saw no expression on Lucifer's face. He was looking in the airship's direction through the spyglass. The cries of agony continued to sound throughout the ship, but as time passed by, the cries sounded quieter and quieter. Holy fuck! One of the war frigates that surrounded the airship belonged to none other than Xian. He was at the helm when she heard one of his crew members shout. "Can you have to see this?" The crew member came running to Xian with the spyglass. "What the hell happened to you?" Xian frowned, looking at the shivering crew member. Grabbing the spyglass from the crew member, Xian looked at the ship approaching them in the distance. It took Xian a few moments to lock his eyes on the ship. Then he felt a cold chill running through his spine. Shit! Through his spyglass, he witnessed several bleeding men hanging from the sail posts. The sight gave him a chill. It was not because he hadn't seen dead bodies before. Those men hanging from the poles, they were his men. Chapter 393. Old Bertha slowly approached the airship. The sun was in the middle of the sky, roasting everything under. Anyone on the sea could feel the ocean breeze getting warmer and warmer to the point it made them sweat under their loose shirts. "You gotta be kidding me," Tiberius looked at the approaching ship through the window. He could vaguely see the sorry state of old Bertha. Lucia went to buy a new ship and an old ship was sailing towards them after some time. It didn't take a genius to figure out they bought the old ship. "Shit," Tiberius heard Sadie curse from the window next to him. He turned to see her looking through the spyglass. "What?" Tiberius asked. She was shivering slightly. Hence he was curious. "See for yourself." Sadie handed over the spyglass to Tiberius. Closing his one eye, Tiberius placed the spyglass on the other to look through it. The surrounding war frigates looked bigger and clearer as well as the old ships sailing towards them. "Ill be damned," Tiberius mumbled the moment he saw the bodies hanging from the sail poles. The bodies were still bleeding. Some bodies had their chests caved in, some had shoulders cut off, some had a hole in their head right between the eyes. He moved the spyglass to see Lucifer sitting leisurely on the steps with a calm face. Then he moved a couple of inches up to see Gibson holding the rudder while Maxine moved around the deck, keeping the sails intact. He could vaguely see the blood splatters on her cream-white top. Gotta love that woman. Tiberius could guess who was responsible for the hanging bodies. Whoever they are, they just called in the devil. A cold sweat drop appeared on Sadie's forehead. "You believe in that shit. I mean, he's a freak of nature, but I don't think he is a god as Maxine or you people claim him to be." Tiberius rolled his eyes. "You're either stupid or ignorant to believe otherwise. Not even an immortal can use cultivation in the southern continent, but he does that. Have you heard of guardians?" Sadie asked while he was slightly in shock of her direct approach. "Yeah, they are some big potatoes in your part of the world, right? They are one of the most powerful organizations in the world. If they wanted, they could take over the world in a few weeks. Still, they started to piss their pants when he made his mark. I'm telling you, Tiberius, he's not a human. At best, he's a god. At worst, he's the devil," Sadie said. Her voice and face couldn't be any more serious. "Either way, we are here because of him." Suddenly they heard another voice. They immediately turned back and saw Arya standing in front of them. Her gratitude towards Lucifer was multiplied by several folds when he agreed to cure her brothers. In a week or so, her brothers would be completely healed. He performed a miracle in her life. She would never forget what he did for her. "When my brothers wake up, we are gonna dedicate our lives to his cause and get rid of all those fucking slave traders from this world." Sadie could see the murderous intent in her eyes. Her voice sounded so cold. Big Bertha slowly sailed towards the war frigates surrounding the airship. The cannons on the upper deck were tilted up, aimed at the airship. At this close range, there was no way the airship could escape if the pirates decided to fire at will. "That son of a bitch," Maxine came to his side before handing over the spyglass to him. "It's Xian." As he was looking at Xian through the spyglass, he heard Maxine's annoyed voice, which also had a tinge of shock. "So they are here on Pirate Lord Vancess' orders?" Michael asked. "No. The other ships, they belonged to Corey, my lord. The 8-petal flower symbol on the flags, that's Corey's crest." Gibson slowly sailed toward Xian's ship in the front. Michael calmly waited for their ship to get closer to Xian's. Xian's ship was a war frigate. The ship was almost 60 meters long and seemed to have up to 124 guns. 4 at the bow, 8 at the stern, and 56 in each broadside. The sails were dyed in muddy browns just like the hull. Unlike the rest of the ships, Xian had a blood-red shark in the flag. Although Bertha was bigger than any war frigates surrounding the airship, she had zero firepower at the moment. The size of Bertha intimidated some pirates. Of course, she was not as scary as the Silent Reaper. However, she was intimidating with her sheer size and speed. When Bertha sailed adjacent to Xian's ship, Xian, along with a couple of other pirates, came to Bertha using rope swings. "Hello, Marina. Ship sucks, but I dig the decoration." He looked at the bleeding bodies hanging from the sail poles above them. Maxine looked at Michael, asking wordlessly for his permission to talk. He nodded, giving her permission to talk. "What's going on?" "Nothing. Pirate Lord Corey just wants to meet you. There is no just Xian." "Cut the crap. this is a fucking fleet. You are taking the airship hostage, and what the hell are you doing here? You don't answer to Corey. I think you are mistaken about the situation here, Marina. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. If I were you, Xian snickered as he looked around the ship. I'd pick the easy way. We will pick the easy way. The Silent Queen talks. Xian laughed when he heard Michael finally talk. He had a feeling that this youngster is the one running the show behind Marina. You made the right choice. Now if you follow us, lead the way, Captain Xian, Michael said with a smile. I like you. The respectful way Michael addressed him put a smile on his face. However, in Gibson's eyes, Xian looked like a sheep calling the wolf with a wide grin on its face. And if you don't mind, we will remove these decorations, Xian asked. It didn't sound like a request but an order. Of course, yet again Michael nodded with a smile, and the airship coming with us, Maxine wanted to leap at Xian, rip his throat off for making too many requests at Lord Lucifer. As you wish, I like you more and more, big fella, Xian laughed out aloud. Michael was 6'3" and almost looked 6'4" with his muscular build. Even with a large shirt and long coat, his muscles were visible. Height was another thing that changed about him. Abraz was 6 feet tall, but recently Michael had grown extra 3 inches. Fortunately, the system ensured Michael would grow taller unless he wanted to. Arya, follow us. Xian saw the youngster mumble something under his breath, keeping his hand on the right ear. They will follow us, Captain Xian. Xian pointed his finger at the hanging bodies before jumping back onto his ship. The pirates climbed the poles as though they were human monkeys. In a few short moments, they cut down all the bodies from the ropes. As the pirates were lining up the bodies, Gibson followed Xian's ship while the rest of the ships followed Xian's ship. The airship also slowly moved. My lord, what's the plan? Maxine whispered, just go and have a nice long chat with Pirate Captain Corey. 6 hours had passed in a blink of an eye. In the 6 hours, Michael was inside the captain's cabin meditating. The captain's cabin was a dust-covered, broken mess. There was no table, chair, or anything but only broken wooden plans and empty ale bottles. The place seemed like the go-to place for pirate parties. The room reeked of piss and ale, yet Michael controlled all his senses through meditation. He learned meditation from a Shaolin monk back on Earth when he trained under Spectre. My lord? He could hear the door creak open. He slowly opened his eyes to see Maxine standing by the door. With a nod, Michael stood up. He walked towards the door, feeling the anger within him calming down. When he stepped out of the door, he was welcomed by a colorful island under millions of stars and a full golden moon. There were countless warships lined up before the island. The peculiar feature about the island was the glowing flowers. The scenery looked as though the island was a Christmas tree and the flowers were the decorations. Everywhere he turned, he could see the glowing flowers. Red, blue, orange, golden, silver, green, every color flower could be seen on the island. In addition to the glowing flowers, the island's atmosphere resembled a party. A piece of loud music reverberated the island while the cheers of the pirates were ear-splitting. I love this world. He took in the beautiful sight of the island. A smile appeared on his face after a while. Lead the way, Maxine. As Maxine led the way, he saw Xian and his crew walking in front of them. The airship was still above the same fleet that came to surround the ship earlier. Although Michael seemed to be walking looking at the path before him, he was scanning his surroundings. Thanks to the environmental scanning skill, he didn't have to make a mental map like he used to. For a few minutes, they continued to walk on the wooden platform that led to a huge manor in the center of the island. It was neither a castle nor a fancy manor like Bradford Manor, but it was huge. 3 stories, a balcony where several couples of pirates were making out, lawn filled with drunken pirates singing and dancing, and tiny glowing flowers decorated the entire manor like LED lights. Following Maxine and Xian's group, Michael entered the manor through the main door. From the outside, the manor looked delightful, rustic, and folksy. When he stepped inside, he was welcomed by redwood walls and thick, stone beams, as well as a sense of home and the smell of alcohol. It was as charming inside as it is on the outside. Tree logs supported the upper floor and the sconces attached to them. The walls were decorated with vanes, the same glowing followers that Michael saw outside, and several pot plants. He felt like he had entered a tavern inside a botanical garden. It was clear Corey was a lover of nature. The manor itself was packed with pirates. Several long tables were occupied by separate groups of pirates, all enjoying themselves, but they kept to themselves. The other, smaller tables were also occupied by people who are clearly having a good time. Even most of the stools at the bar were occupied, though nobody seemed to mind more company. "Welcome to Witch Island, folks." Xian turned around with a wide grin on his face to welcome them. Chapter 394. When the pirates having drinks saw Maxine, the smiles on their faces completely vanished. At the moment, the joyous mood inside the manor died down. Instead, a gloomy atmosphere took control over the area. Gibson felt uncomfortable seeing the countless death glares at them. Through the glaring pirates, they followed Xian behind. At the end of the hall, there were crescent-shaped stairs leading to the upper floors. On his way, Michael noticed the maids and female pirates licking their lips looking at him. The face mask changed his extremely handsome face to some generic normal-looking face. There was nothing special about his facial features. However, his height and muscular build made him stand out in the crowd. All the girls in the hall wanted a piece of him. Even some of the girls sitting on their partners' laps stared at Michael instead of their partners. Ignoring the gazes, Michael followed Xian. The stairs were decorated with the same glowing flowers. The island seemed to have glowing flowers in abundance. Everywhere he turned, he could see the flowers. The veins were coiling around the stair edges. Hence, he was able to touch the flower. Like most of the flowers, the petals were extremely soft and silky, too soft. He rubbed his fingers together to feel a powdery substance that got attached to his fingers when he touched them. Despite its powdery form, the powder seemed to stick like glue to the skin. He then quickly took a whiff without letting the others notice him. His lips slightly curved upwards a few moments later. Listening to the cheery pirate music, they climbed the stairs. Finally, when they reached the top floor where they saw a couple of pirates staying in front of a redwood door. The door had carvings of various fishes, flowers as well as a huge eye on the center. The guards did not wear any armor. Instead, they had spears in their hands. Also, they looked huge, almost 7 feet with biceps the size of a normal human being's thighs. Any lesser man would be torn to pieces by the guards. Their stature alone freaked out Gibson. Only because he had Lucifer before, Gibson wasn't very afraid of the guards. Approaching the door, Xian nodded as though he was giving a wordless password. The guards slowly opened the door to reveal the room on the other side. The gigantic diamond-shaped chandelier hanging from the ceiling lit the room with its golden light. In the golden light, 2 figures appeared in their sight. The 2 figures were surrounded by nothing but greeneries. The wall was completely layered by green veins and heart-shaped leaves. There wasn't a single spot in the room that wasn't covered by the veins or leaves. In addition to the thick veins and leaves, the emerald green flowers riddled the room. Even the round table between Michael and the group and the 2 figures were covered by the veins. This was the only place Michael saw no glowing flowers. One of the figures on the other side of the table was a woman. At the moment, they could only see her back. She had wavy long brown hair in which she had tiny glowing flowers as a decoration. She was 6 foot tall with a slender build. The smell of rustic nature permeated from her as well as the walls around them. When they stepped into the room, the guards shut the doors. The other figure was tied to a chair. She was slowly running her fingers on her face. Michael stepped aside slightly to see the bald man struggling to speak something, but his words were muffled by the cloth around his mouth. Although Michael had no idea about the identity of the man, he knew she was one of the 3 pirate lords, Corey. He still couldn't see her front side. He was staring at her back. She raised her hand. "So nice of you to return to your former lord, Marina." Her sound sounded sweet and gentle. She slowly turned back to let them see the front of her. The moment she turned around, Gibson was stunned. Her face was completely filled with tattoos. Michael was slightly stunned too, not because her face was buried under tattoos. It was because the tattoos resembled Mayan and Aztec tattoos on the earth. Gibson couldn't tell she was beautiful or not so beautiful before all the tattoos. Corey smiled, revealing her pearl-white row of teeth looking at Michael's fixed gaze on her. "Like what you see, handsome?" She suddenly opened up her brown blouse, revealing her ample bosom. Gibson's jaw almost dropped to the ground. She removed the shirt and threw it on the floor. Just like her face, every inch of her body was decorated with tattoos. However, Michael saw a thin layer of oil on her body. He wasn't surprised though, because he knew why exactly she applied oil on her body. You know who he is? She took a step forward, then walked around the tied-up man while running her finger through his face. When she came behind the man, she bent down to kiss the top of his head. My lover, soon to be ex I suppose. Her hands leisurely moved towards her long gown. With a flick of her wrist, she untied the laces on each side. The long gown slowly fell off, revealing her lower body. Gibson couldn't help swallowing a mouth full of saliva. Right at the moment, Corey had nothing but a tiny piece of cloth covering her womanhood. Am I ugly, my dear? You didn't think I am when we made love, itch? The man seemed to be trying to scream, but all that escaped his mouth was a muffled cry. Yet again she slowly walked to the front of the man, sat on his lap and licked his cheeks. Am I ugly, my dear? She whispered into the man's ears. It was loud enough for everyone to hear. HRUs. The man frantically struggled against the ropes that tied his arms and legs to the chair. But no matter how hard he shook his body, he couldn't escape. After a few moments of licking the man's cheeks, she stood up. Michael was patiently looking at all the drama with a smile on his face. All of their eyes were fixed on Corey, expecting what she was going to do next. Gibson couldn't help expecting the last piece of cloth to come down, just to see if all of her had been decorated with tattoos. Corey gave the man a flying kiss. She then placed her hand on the man's cheek. Under their gazes, she snapped her fingers. The very next moment, the flames appeared out of nowhere and enveloped the man. HRUs. The man was on fire literally. His frantic struggle became worse by the second. Everyone was completely in shock except Michael. Although Maxine had seen Corey perform with Chris many times, she was still stunned to see it again. She told Michael about Corey's ability to perform witchcraft. Yet, he had never reacted much except a smile. Gibson was staring at the burning body in a daze. His mind was boggled trying to figure out what just happened. She used magic? Gibson asked himself. Then he looked at Lucifer to see him standing there completely indifferent. The burning smell of skin overpowered the rustic aroma in the room. Who feels like barbecue? Corey chuckled before stomping the ground. The floor beneath him quickly opened up as the burning man dropped into the hole. After burning the man alive, Corey turned to lock her eyes with Maxine. She still had an alluring smile on her face. You don't scare me, Corey, Maxine calmly said. In terms of making people scared, Corey was nowhere near Lord Lucifer. Is that so? Corey licked her lips. Enough of this circus. Finally Michael opened his mouth. Xian almost unsheathed his sword when he saw Lucifer pull back one of the chairs. Corey looked at him sitting on the chair without batting an eye. Her alluring smile almost turned cold as Michael put his leg on the table. I have to say, you put up a good show, he chuckled. Pirate Lord, Xian tried to step forward but was stopped by the wave of Corey's hand. A highly flammable spores produced by the glowing flowers, he calmly said. The gunpowder mixed with a tinge of iron powder under your fingernails. Snap your fingers hard to create a spark. As the smile on Michael's face grew wider, the smile on Corey's face dimmed down. Everyone walking through the party will basically be bathed in invisible oil. Maxine always wondered why there were no torches inside the manor and the pirates were prohibited to use torches. If everyone were flammable in the manor thanks to the glowing flowers, it made sense not to allow anyone to play with fire. Then why am I not on fire? Corey asked. Michael chuckled yet again, looking at her confidence in her voice. Despite scamming people with her fake witchcraft for years, they might not see the oil on your body, but I can. It prevents you from getting caught on fire in close range. He paused for a moment to Corey realize her scam has been exposed. The tattoos on your body, your gimmick of being a witch, the decorations. He looked around the room. You wanted to be a witch when you were little and managed to be a fake one with the help of your scams. I got to hand it to you, fake or not. You built yourself an empire. I respect that. He nodded approvingly. But do you want to see real magic? The smile on his face disappeared. Gibson felt a chill hearing his animalistic voice once again. The next moment, the room became dark despite the chandelier light. Corey's eyes opened as wide as they could when she saw the youngster in front of her suddenly change his form. She unconsciously took a step back, seeing the dark smoke around him. His red eyes, the skull mask, the black armor, and his voice, everything made her shiver. The next moment, when Xian was still in shock, Corey saw him point his finger toward Xian. A bolt of lightning immediately fired out from his hand and struck Xian. Boom! Corey was taken aback by the muffled exploding sound. It took her a few seconds to realize the red mist in the air was Xian. Chapter 395. Corey's legs were uncontrollably shivering. Her mind was blank. She was unable to understand what just happened. Not a single sound could be heard at the moment except the music sounds coming from downstairs. Her eyes watched him slowly stand up from the chair. She wanted to scream, but not a single word came out of her mouth. Overwhelming shock had completely taken over her mind and body. His every step towards her made her heartbeat increase. With his fully Lucifer armor equipped, he almost looked 7 foot tall. The completely Lucifer form freaked the hell out of Gibson. Despite the chandelier light, his complete Lucifer form darkened the room. The darkness overshadowed the light. He came behind her. With a flick of his wrist, he retrieved a normal wooden chair from the space ring. He placed his hands on her shoulder as Corey felt a chill running through her spine. He pushed her down to make her sit on the chair. Just like she did, he ran his fingers through her face. His sharp claw-like gloves slightly hurt her skin, but she didn't utter a word. You have 2 choices, darling. You can choose to scream and hope your guards arrive before you turn into our friend Xian there. He cupped her face before turning her neck in the direction where Xian was. The ground was painted with his blood, not even bits of bones remained on the ground. Xian was completely turned into a bloody pulpy mess by Xianxia. Or you can agree to my offer and taste the power of real magic. In one hand, a golden bolt of lightning, in the other, crimson red flame danced around. Corey could feel the electricity from the lightning bolts and the heat from the crimson red flame on her skin. He bent down, kissing the top of her head, just like how she did to the bald man. Corey's entire body shivered because of the fear toxin Michael released into the air. Not only Corey but also Maxine and Gibson shivered in fear. The fire and lightning bolts above his palms soon faded away. A pendant appeared in his hand. He placed the pendant around her neck. Remove it and you will know there are things worse than death. Corey touched the tiny pendant on her neck. She felt the chill on her neck. He took a few steps to stand in front of her. His hands ran through her shoulder, arms, then he clutched the arms of the chair. Corey's teeth chattered. She slowly tilted her head up to see him bend his back to look directly into her eyes. Hey, race my offer, darling. He willed the system to stop radiating fear toxin from his suit. Instead, he ordered the system to release the antidote so Corey's mind would become normal. Scam or not, she used her brain to build an empire from scratch. As far as he was concerned, a brain like that was more valuable than any superweapon. Every time he willed the system to radiate fear toxin from his suit, he had to pay 2,000 badass points. It seemed like a waste to him. However, he had no other way because his inventor skill level was too low to build a device into his suit of armor which would control potion releases instead of the system. It changed after he upgraded the inventor skill. He could now build various devices to replace the system. Ever since the system went offline, he started to plan for the future without the system. He realized long ago that he shouldn't completely rely on the system. Since Corey was just a mortal with no cultivation base, the antidote quickly dispelled the fear toxin from her bloodstream. Her pupils retracted as she stared into the crimson red eyes of Lucifer. You now serve me. You can carry on your pirate lord's work as usual except sometimes. You answer to me or Maxine. Fail to carry your orders and you will be replaced. That's the stick. Michael turned his gaze on the robes on the ground. He just flicked his wrist as the cloth floated into his hands. Maxine and Gibson saw Lucifer covering Corey with her clothes. If you serve me well, you will get rich, powerful, and a shot at immortality. That's the carrot. Corey couldn't believe for a second what she just heard. She had heard of immortals in cultivation continents. Unfortunately, She was born in the southern continent, which made her unable to cultivate to reach higher stages. System: imprint a simple fire conjuring spell into her brain. Back on cultivation continents, even a commoner could conjure sparks or a tiny ball of fire using arch energy. In addition to conjuring fireballs, they were also able to do simple things such as making small objects levitate. Simple tasks such as these did not even require the user to cast spells. They could just manipulate the arch energy with their mind and accomplish that. For cultivators and even for commoners, these tasks were as simple as breathing and use a negligible amount of arch energy. Hence, Michael decided to give Corey a little taste of magic. The system can imprint the ability to conjure fire into her brain for just 4,000 badass points. The system can transfer a tiny amount of arch energy from the host's body to Corey. Do it. As he ordered the system in his mind, he placed his hand on Corey's head. For the first time since Michael revealed himself as Lucifer, Corey opened her mouth. Seeing her cry, Gibson thought Lucifer was hurting Corey. Corey felt like a bullet ant drilling through her brain. The pain gradually lessened as Corey sensed something different. She couldn't explain the feeling, but she felt a new sensation. It was natural and easy as breathing. What you feeling is a little taste of the power you can wield in the future. He took several steps back from Corey. If you serve me well, Michael said as Corey lifted her hands, feeling the hot sensation building inside her palm. The very next moment, she snapped her finger like a tiny orb of fire lit up above her palm. The fire danced around her palm as Gibson and Maxine stared at Corey with their eyes wide open. How did he? Shit, I'm using magic, Corey stuttered. Her eyes were filled with joy and shock. She soon conjured a fireball in each hand. She laughed so wide as though she was a child playing with her favorite toy. A few moments later, playing with the fire, she looked up at Lucifer. Who are you? She asked shockingly. I am Lucifer. People call me the Dark Lord. The moment the words escaped his mouth, a stream of crimson red fire and golden streaks of lightning crisscrossed around him. Coupled with the dark cloud, the fire and lightning scared the shit out of Corey. What's it gonna be, Pirate Lord Corey? Stick or carrot, your choice. As he spoke, Maxine made her way to stand behind Michael. Gibson too soon followed Maxine's footsteps to stand behind him. Corey was not dumb to refuse the offer. It was a once-in-lifetime offer. Besides, he didn't give her much of a choice. She could either agree to serve him or disagree and probably die like Xian. She didn't build an empire by making wrong choices and letting go of opportunities such as this. Hence, naturally she wanted to agree. I agree, Mr. You will address him as my lord, Maxine interrupted Corey. I agree, my lord. My fleet is yours to command. Corey knelt down on one knee. She was an opportunist, not a woman who clung onto pointless pride. You are going to take back the bounty you put on Maxine. His first order to her was regarding the bounty on Maxine's head. He would have loved to have some sea battles if old Bertha had some fire power and was in a fighting condition. If he had Silent Reaper, the mere sight of that beat would have scared the shit out of the pirates. Yes, my lord, Corey immediately agreed with him. She was glad he didn't take her life for putting Maxine's life in danger. As far as Corey could guess, Maxine seemed like the right hand of Lucifer, which kinda made Maxine her superior. Then I'm pretty sure you can spin some story to explain what happened to Xian. My existence must be kept as a secret until I tell you otherwise. Michael did not waste his time and brain thinking about a way to explain Xian's death. A woman who managed to scam the pirates for decades would be able to spin some bullshit story to cover up Xian's death. Until I deal with the other pirate lords, don't engage in combat with the Thusians. Maxine was slightly surprised to hear his order. She thought he would send Corey's entire fleet to chase away the Thusians after subduing her. Instead, he did the exact opposite. My lord, can I ask you something? Yes. Don't be afraid to speak your mind. Your mind is a precious one. It should be used to its full potential. Only then, we can rule this entire world. Obviously his words stunned Corey. Hence, her eyes opened as wide as they could. Stand up and speak your mind, Michael said, willing the system to unequip the Lucifer armor. In a blink of an eye, he transformed into his previous human form. Corey heaved a sigh of relief inside. The normal human form was easy to talk to compared to his freakish Dark Lord form. Can I really achieve immortality? Michael smiled hearing her question. He could see the thirst for power and immortality in her eyes. People like her would be easier to control than people with high morals and righteousness. As I said before, serve me well and you will rule a part of this world forever. Chapter 396. At the moment somewhere else in the southern continent, a man robbed a pearl-white toga with a golden laurel on his head sitting on a throne. The man seemed to be tall but not too tall to stand out in a crowd. This fair-skinned man has a suspicious feel about him. His greasy, light blonde hair was very short and currently dyed completely butterscotch. His forehead got bigger as his hair seemed to be falling out. He had a square face with a cleft chin, a long neck, broad shoulders, toned arms and large hands, a heavy torso with no muscle tone, round hips, weak legs, and average-sized feet. He was sitting on the throne as though he was a king who rules the entire kingdom rather than a head senator. His thirst for being a single ruler made him decorate the hall in his manner like a throne hall of a king. In the hall, bulky braziers encompassed each of the 12 marmoreal columns that light up every part of the throne hall, covering the hall in dancing shadows and a warm radiance. The intricate golden patterns on the layered ceiling danced in the flickering light while memorials and statues looked down upon the oaken floor of this sublime hall. A jade rug was running down from the throne for a few meters before coming to an end while forked banners with burnished tufts dangled gently from the walls. Between each banner sat a small altar full of candles. All but a few have been lit and in turn illuminated the paintings of men wearing a toga and golden laurel on their head of the world below them. Slim windows were edged by veils colored the same jade as the banners. The curtains had been adorned with gold leaves and decorating tips. A magnificent throne of oak sits atop a tall elevated platform and was adjoined by 3 plain, but comfortable seats for those closest to the man. Those who wanted to be heard by the man could do so on the several long and rather bulky stone benches, all of which were facing the throne. Those of higher standing such as other senators and nobles could instead take seats in the renovated balustrades overlooking the throne. Your Majesty, from the left side of the throne, a Spartan soldier walked towards the man. The Spartan soldier's boots kept making thud sounds as he came before the man. Immediately the Spartan soldier knelt on his one knee. The man liked to be addressed as Your Majesty as though he was a king rather than senator when they were in his manner. Those who disagreed with his request would disappear overnight. Although Maven was a Senate-ruled kingdom, it was ruled by this man alone. The other senators were just puppets of him. He was corrupt to the core with an insatiable thirst for power and money. The soldier placed the spear on the ground before sliding his hand into the red cape he was wearing. In a moment, the soldier retrieved a luminous bluish crystal from his pouch. The crystal was covered in gray dust which dimmed out the crystal. Is that? The man's eyes glistened in excitement. Bring it to me, the man ordered the Spartan. No one was in the throne hall except the man and the Spartan soldier. The man couldn't hold his excitement as before the Spartan could reach him, he stood up, walked straight to the Spartan, and grabbed the crystal from the Spartan's hand. Arch energy, pure arch energy. I can feel it, the man grinned, feeling the pulses coming from the crystal. He clenched the crystal so tight. The longer he held the crystal in his hand, the louder his laughter became. It's true, Stormvale Mountain really has arch energy crystals within. Ha! His mad laughter echoed through the empty throne hall. Several minutes later, the man finally stopped his mad laughter. Spartan hostess, how many crystals those slaves mined? The last time I counted, they had mined 100 stones, Your Majesty. If you give me the word, I can hire the scholars and engineers to build a pulley system which would speed up the mining process, Your Majesty. The man rubbed his chin for a few moments after hearing the Spartan. You can do that. But after they build everything, kill them and bury them in the mine, the man said without any remorse and hesitation. What about the slaves, Your Majesty? Should I recycle them or make sure they never leave the mine until they die? The Spartan soldier was not much different than the man. Spartan hostess had been serving Senator Vibius Celius Serius for more than a decade. In this decade of time, he had killed more than 100 people including slaves, nobles, and senators for Senator Vibius. Senator Vibius had been spending millions of gold to increase the military power of Maven in secret. No one had a clue that Kingdom Maven had 2 or 3 times the size of other Senate-ruled kingdoms such as Giselle. He was amassing the military power to conquer the Stormvale Mountain. Even if all the Senate-ruled kingdoms formed an alliance to take the Stormvale Mountain from him after they conquered it, Senator Vibius had enough military power to defend the mountain for years. "Those idiots have no idea what they have in their hands," Senator Vibius mumbled under his breath with an evil grin on his face. "How many slaves working in the mine?" Senator asked. "120 slaves, Your Majesty. Killing all of them and buying a new batch of slaves might raise a few eyebrows. Still, mining is a dangerous task. 10 or so slaves could die every month and new slaves could replace them," as he said. The senator made his way back the throne. "Make sure none of the slaves currently mining leave the mine alive. The existence of these crystals must be kept secret at all costs. Also, make those scholars prepare a document saying the Stormvale Mountain originally belonged to Maven. Make sure the document looks ancient. Kill them after they finish the job." The Spartan soldier wasn't surprised at all. He expected the order before the senator actually said it. Senator Vibius was waiting for this moment for more than a decade. As far as the people of Maven knew, Senator Vibius came from a long family line of Sarius. However, the Sarius family was not always called Sarius. The first ancestor who found the family came from a secret order. Only the main bloodline knew the existence of the order and the first ancestor's involvement in the secret order. Spartan hostis, to the outside world, "We are just mining iron and minerals." "Yes, Your Majesty," Spartan hostis bowed before leaving the throne hall. At the moment, the senator was sitting on the throne alone. He looked at the crystal in his hand. Then, with the other hand, he clenched the medallion on his chest. He pulled the medallion with force. The medallion remained in his hand, radiating a dim glow. The coin-sized black medallion had nothing but a letter etched onto its surface, L. This medallion looked exactly the same as the medallion on Maxine's neck. "Order of Death," Vibius snickered. The founding ancestor of the Sarius family was a member of the Order of Death. He was one of the few who survived the Guardians. But unlike others, Vibius' ancestor did not escape the Guardians. Rather, he was escorted to the southern continent safely by the Guardians because his ancestor was the man who betrayed the order to the Guardians for wealth, power, and kingdom. Vibius' ancestor did not believe in the Dark Lord Lucifer, and neither did Vibius. As Vibius was looking at the medallion in his hand, another soldier entered the throne hall. He was not a Spartan but a normal soldier who wore full plate armor and chainmail. "Your Majesty, His Lord Canis is here to see you." Vibius quickly put the medallion into his pocket before nodding at the soldier. Several minutes later, Vibius saw a man wearing black robes with a hood covering his head walking towards him. "Lord Canis," Vibius chuckled, standing up from his throne. "I'm sick of that name." The figure growled before slowly taking off the hood to reveal his golden shoulder-length hair, perfectly sculpted handsome face, and bluish eyes. "I'm sorry, the name your superiors picked is not as good as your real name, Guardian Connors." Guardian Connors was none other than the man who was part of the Operation New Dawn organized by Peyton and Zanali. He was responsible for gathering information about Ghost and the man who killed Jack. Peyton had no idea that Connors killed Jack during his surveillance. Connors was able to blame the bandits in the forest. Since Operation New Dawn was an off-the-books operation, there was no investigation on Connors. After Peyton dismantled the team, each of the team members was welcomed into the guild as fully fledged guardians. Afraid of Ghost finding of his involvement in Jack's death, Connors used his connections inside the guild to get himself assigned to a top-secret mission in the southern continent. "Tell me that's the crystal," Connors emphasized the word "the," raising his brows. He walked closer to Vibius to take a closer look at the crystal. Should this be enough to convince the Guardians? With a snicker, Vibius tossed the crystal towards Connors. The moment Connors caught the crystal in his hand, he felt a pulse of energy. He was completely stunned. He could yet again feel the arch energy running through his energy veins. Arch energy. Connors snapped his fingers as a spark of flame appeared above his fingers. Connors' mind went blank. Impossible? He mumbled. Though the energy inside the crystal was not enough to cast powerful spells, he could absorb the arch-energy from the crystal to perform simple spells which should be impossible considering the southern continent was void of any energies. Not anymore, Guardian Connors. Now let's talk about how bigger the army the Guardians will send here for me to command. Chapter 397, Your Majesty. Just as the two of them were about to discuss the terms of their deal, a soldier entered the throne hall. Connors quickly hid the crystal with his robes. The senator gave the soldier a death glare as the soldier's face went pale behind his metal helmet. What? Vibius growled like an animal. Senator Caius is here to meet you. Vibius was taken aback by surprise. He didn't receive any report of Caius' visit to Maven from Giselle ambassadors or his spies. Why wasn't I informed about his visit? Vibius asked the soldier. Your Majesty, Senator Caius just suddenly appeared with another one. They are requesting an audience with you. Yet again Vibius was surprised by the soldier. He couldn't help but raise his brows. Even Connors, who was standing beside Vibius, had a frown on his face. Weird, Vibius rubbed his chin. The soldier remained in the hall waiting for Vibius' orders. After pondering for a few moments, Connors opened his mouth. The other guy you mentioned, does he pose a threat to the senator? No, my lord, they are both unarmed. The Spartans already confirmed they have no weapons on them. Connors listened to the soldier patiently. What do you think, Lord Canis? Vibius asked Connors. Connors was confident in his combat ability as he was trained by the best coaches in the Guardian Guild. In addition to his training, they had Spartans waiting outside the throne hall. If Caius or the other guy tried to do any harm, they would be dead before they could reach Vibius. Besides, if Connors could broker peace between the two kingdoms, his job of getting the crystals to the Guardians would be much easier. Otherwise, the Guardians would have to allocate resources such as an army and weapons to Maven to fight Giselle. I say we should ask Caius why is he here. Vibius racked his brain for a few minutes before nodding at the soldier. Connors quickly put the crystal deep within his inner pocket. Send them in, but make sure the Spartans are within a shouting range, Vibius ordered the soldier as the soldier bowed before leaving the throne hall. What if Caius becomes a problem, Guardian Connors? While they were waiting for Caius to enter the throne hall, Vibius asked Connors. Then we deal with it in the Guardian way. Connors waved his hands casually. And what is that? Solve the problem or make it disappear? The cold smile that emerged on Connors' face indicated the true meaning of his words. Vibius was thinking the same. If Caius became too much of a nuisance, he was planning to assassinate Caius. It would be difficult to assassinate a head senator in his own kingdom, but Vibius had connections with the Grim Reapers. Only a handful of few knew the existence of Grim Reapers in the southern continent. Vibius was one of those few people. The two of them were already planning on killing Caius. They had zero clues that the Dark Lord himself was coming to greet them. After waiting for the guest to appear for a few minutes, Vibius finally saw Caius wearing a white toga and golden laurel on his head walking towards him with a tall youngster in a long gray coat and black pants. His dress was not of a southern noble but was similar to Connors' robes. He seemed like he came from one of the Cultivation continents. Nonetheless, Vibius paid little attention to the youngster because no matter who he was or where he came from, when he stepped inside the void line, he was nothing but a mere mortal. Vibius put on a fake smile to welcome Caius. Vibius noticed the fake smile on Caius' face as well as the cold sweat drop on his forehead. Senator Caius, I didn't expect you to visit me suddenly. Vibius and Caius shook their hands as Connors stared at the youngster behind Caius. He had an uneasy feeling in his gut. Connors noticed the youngster looking at Vibius, but soon, his gaze slowly turned towards him. Ouch! When Vibius was shaking Caius' hands, he suddenly let out a muffled cry. Connors was shocked. Still, before Connors could react, he saw the youngster behind Caius suddenly disappear. His mind went blank as he felt a sharp pain. Within a second after he felt the sharp pain, everything around him turned dark. Arg! Connors let out a moan, slowly regaining his consciousness. He tried to move his arms and legs, but he simply couldn't. He opened his eyes, fighting the pain in his head. Finally, he's awake. Connors was not sure what he just heard. The voice he just heard didn't sound like a human. Struggling to move his body, he opened his eyes to see nothing but an endless ocean around him. The half-moon and the millions of stars in the sky were the only light source. He looked down at his hands to see his hands and legs are tied up with ropes. He gritted his teeth trying to get himself out of the ropes. "Don't bother." While Connors was trying to get himself out of the ropes, he heard a voice from behind. This time the voice sounded human. "Ch." Connors growled as he turned back to see a Spartan soldier behind him. The Spartan soldier was in no better shape than him. His hands and legs were tied using ropes too. If it wasn't for the red cape, golden chest armor as well as a crimson-red tunic, Connors wouldn't have recognized the man as a Spartan. The red feather-covered helmet indicated that the man was not a mere soldier but someone who held high rank in the Spartan army. At the moment, the Spartan's ranking didn't help him as he also remained a prisoner. Connors then turned his gaze away from the Spartan and saw several other figures kneeling on the floor with their hands and legs tied. Looking at their togas and golden laurels on their heads, Connors could tell all of them were nobles. "Vibius," Connors mumbled when he saw Vibius among the nobles. However, Vibius didn't notice Connors as all the nobles had their eyes covered with a cloth. Except for him and the Spartan, everyone had a cloth around their eyes. What happened? Connors asked himself. He tried to recall what just happened. One moment, he was in the throne hall looking at the youngster behind Caius, and the next moment, he felt a sharp pain and then he woke up here. His memory was clouded. He tried his best to clear out the fog. As he thought deeply, he remembered the youngster suddenly vanishing into thin air. For a few moments, Connors just looked around to see where he was. Even though they were on the upper deck of a ship, Connors saw no crew members. In addition to the lack of crews, he also noticed the lack of cannons around him. The upper deck was void of any cannons. "Where are we?" Connors asked the Spartan. The Spartan soldier looked around before sighing. "The better question is, how did we end up here? Where were you before this?" The Spartan soldier asked. Connors didn't immediately answer the Spartan. Despite the confusion of how he ended up here, Connors was able to tell that he was either poisoned to lose consciousness and transported here or he was teleported. But the latter possibility seemed impossible as no one could use teleportation within the void line. Hence, Connors bet on the poison theory, which made sense as he felt a sharp pain like a bee sting in the back of the neck before he lost consciousness. Connors couldn't trust the Spartan. What if the Spartan was one of those who kidnapped him? Suddenly Connors realized something as he quickly touched his chest. "Shit," Connors cursed out loud. When he touched his pockets, he couldn't find the crystal inside. "If you are searching for a weapon, don't." "They stripped all the weapons," the Spartan told Connors. "I'm not looking for any weapon," Connors growled. His mind disregarded the possibility of him being teleported. Instead, he thought someone poisoned him and transported him with the others to the ship. "You have no idea who you are messing with." Suddenly Connors shouted loudly. He was so pissed as he wanted to kill whoever kidnapped him. "I tried that." The Spartan soldier shook his head. "Shut up, Spartan," Connors snickered. As far as Connors was concerned, Spartans were nothing but glorified slaves to the senators. They were pawns. "Did you hear the voice?" Connors asked the Spartan as he nodded. "It didn't sound human, did it?" the Spartan asked. The Spartan seemed to be more worried about something else than escaping his bonds, unlike Connors. Connors was struggling and trying to bite the ropes that tied his arms. A guardian? While Connors was struggling to escape from the ropes, he yet again heard the animalistic voice. This time he heard the voice coming from above him. The Spartan and Connors looked at the sky as their eyes immediately went wide open. Their jaws dropped a couple of inches down in complete shock. "What?" Connors couldn't believe his eyes. A figure enveloped in a black cloud of smoke was slowly descending to the ship. His heart skipped a beat as he started to shiver. He kinda recognized the figure. He had seen the vague images resembling the figure on Peyton's board during the New Dawn operation. "Lucifer," Connors mumbled as the dark figure landed on the ship. The black smoke enveloped the armor, but Connors could vaguely see the black armor and the crimson-red eyes. The last time he talked to Peyton before ending the New Dawn operation, Peyton told him Lucifer had been dealt with. He believed Peyton because she also told him the Alpha Guardian of Hunter Guardians herself came to apprehend Lucifer. Since the Guardians kept the matter of Lucifer extremely secret, he couldn't get any more information. Plus, he was too busy partying and spending his time in the arms of beauties to think about Lucifer. Chapter 398. The senators who had their eyes covered looked around bewildered after hearing Michael's voice. Meanwhile, Connors and the Spartans stared at Michael with their eyes wide open. Their eyes were glued to him as he landed on the deck. When he landed on the deck, he flicked his wrist as a tall, frightening throne made of skull and bones materialized on the deck. The 6 senators, including Vibius, were trying to see what was happening. What? Vibius growled. He kept struggling against the ropes to free himself. Connors couldn't believe his eyes. He had heard about Lucifer and seen sketches of him, yet in reality he looked more menacing. The skull mask on his face was a dead giveaway of his identity as Lucifer. Both of their eyes were glued to him. They saw him leisurely sitting on his throne, leaning back and putting his leg on the other. His crimson eyes landed on Connors. At this moment, they heard a creaking noise coming from behind. They looked over their shoulders to see a gray-haired man walking towards Lucifer. Connors could tell the man had some kind of injury in his leg looking at the man's gait. He was slightly limping. Surprisingly, the man didn't seem like a prisoner of Lucifer. Rather, he seemed like Lucifer's minion. "My lord," he bowed, standing before Lucifer. "Take off his blind." Connors saw Lucifer pointing his finger at Vibius. "Who are you?" Regardless of the shock, the Spartan soldier was brave enough to question Michael. "I should ask you the same, Spartan Captain Decimus." "For you," Lucifer added, tilting his head. The Spartan didn't understand Lucifer's question. Thus, he had a bewildered look on his face. "Your job was to follow orders, Spartan. Not poke your nose into where it doesn't belong. When you chose to do that, you put yourself and the others in danger." Spartan's heartbeat gradually raised as they heard another creaking voice from behind. As Connors turned his head behind, he surprisingly saw a woman dragging another woman in a red tunic towards Lucifer. She had a baby covered in cloth in her arms. "Dilia!" The Spartan immediately cried out loud, looking at the woman in the red tunic. She was being dragged by her hand by another woman in a gray long coat. His wife didn't move at all as she seemed to have lost consciousness. "Let her go!" The Spartan growled as he violently struggled against the ropes to escape, but no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't untie the ropes. The senators were trying to make sense of what was happening by hearing the shouts and Lucifer's words. At this moment, Gibson finally took off Vibius' blindfold to let him see everything. Vibius' vision wasn't clear. Everything in front of him was blurry. He also felt an urge to throw up, but he was able to control the urge. When his vision finally cleared, he was stunned by the black figure sitting on the throne. His heart skipped a beat. The figure's crimson-red eyes were not on him but on the Spartan. Vibius did not recognize the Spartan, yet he quickly recognized Connors. "You bastard! I will kill you!" The Spartan kept screaming while Maxine was dragging the Spartan's wife towards Lucifer. "Kill me? Ha!" Michael burst into laughter. He grabbed the unconscious wife of the Spartan, lifting her up by her neck. He stood up from his throne while Maxine remained by his side with the baby in her arms. Gibson was moving his head, staring at both Lucifer and the Spartan. "It will take me less than a second to snap her neck right this instance." Holding her in one hand, Michael ran his index finger through her face. A red line appeared along the way as blood slowly started to seep through the cut. The Spartan was struggling more and more violently. Connors saw the Spartan trying to stand up but fell onto the floor ultimately. Still, the Spartan kept trying. Gibson felt pity for the Spartan. This is what happens when you try to be what you're not supposed to be. Don't hurt her. The Spartan's rage in his voice disappeared completely when he saw Lucifer take the baby in his arms. Compared to his 7-foot stature and bulky armor, the baby seemed tiny in his arms. Even Gibson's heart skipped a beat when he saw the baby in Lucifer's arms. Michael placed his hand on the baby's tiny head. Everyone could tell the baby and the mother was sedated as they remained without moving a muscle. "Tell me, Spartan, is the investigation more important than the lives of your beloved wife and the newborn child?" Connors had no idea about what the hell was Lucifer talking about. However, Vibius knew about the investigation the Spartan captain was conducting. His spies reported to him about the Decimus investigation of what happened during Senator Viridius' daughter's marriage. The entire Senate of Giselle was wiped off that day except for Caius. The Spartan captain was conducting an investigation to find out what truly happened that day. He suspected Senator Caius had a hand in that explosion which took the lives of all the senators, their families as well as many nobles. Decimus had received threatening letters from unknown people asking him to drop the investigation. Still, Decimus continued his investigation. "What was your endgame plan, Spartan Decimus?" As he asked the Spartan, Michael lifted the wife by her neck. In one hand he held the baby, in the other he held the mother. Vibius' neck moved in the direction of Lucifer. He was too stunned to utter a word. Until now, he didn't believe in the existence of the so-called Dark Lord whom the Order of Death believed in so much. Spartan Decimus kept struggling as Lucifer came in front of him. Connors was able to see Lucifer so close. The dark cloud of smoke faded away, revealing his metal armor. The intricate black armor had a skull on the chest. The armor looked both sturdy and flexible. There was not a single place that exposed what was underneath the armor. Each step he took towards them produced a heavy thud sound. Maxine followed him behind. "Get him up," Connors heard Lucifer order the woman behind him. The woman quickly stepped forward to get behind the Spartan. Then she grabbed the Spartan by his shoulder, making him stand straight up. "Take off his helmet." The woman quickly lifted off Decimus' helmet to reveal his clean-shaven face. Decimus had shoulder-length dirty brown hair. Due to his clean-shaven look, the scars on his face were visible. At the moment, his hazel eyes looked bloodshot red because of the overwhelming anger and helplessness. "What are you?" Decimus growled as Michael let go of Dilia's neck. She fell onto the wooden floor, making a thud sound. Michael could hear Decimus' heart pound against his chest. He wanted to teach this idiot Spartan a lesson. Michael couldn't care less of who's getting promoted among the Spartans. As far as he was concerned, they were supposed to follow the order of Caius and help him take over the southern continent in the future. Imagine his surprise when he heard from Caius that a nobody Spartan got promoted after the death of the previous Spartan captain and started to conduct an investigation on what happened at Viridius' daughter's marriage. Since there was no international court of law in the southern continent like on Earth, he knew the Spartan captain was collecting evidence to show the people and nobles and get himself elected as the head senator in the election. He was looking to replace Caius, which made Michael kidnap Decimus and his family along with all the senators of Maven Kingdom. "Dilia!" Yet again Decimus screamed, looking at his wife on the ground. Normally Michael wouldn't hurt innocents such as the Spartan's wife or the baby, but this time he made an exception. He wanted to teach Decimus a lesson. The very next moment, while Decimus was struggling to bend down and pick his wife up, Michael put his boot on her neck. He did not put any pressure but placed his boot on her neck. "Bast Pulch!" Decimus' shout was interrupted by a punch to his gut. The punch had enough power to create a fist-shaped dent in his armor as well as cough out mouth full of blood. The blood oozed out of Decimus' mouth. Connors looked up at the Spartan to see his eyes closing and opening. He seemed to be struggling to stay awake. "Look at your beloved wife under my feet. I can squeeze the life out of her in front of your very eyes." Michael moved his boots, pretending to press her throat with his boot. However, he didn't put any pressure at all. He would hurt Decimus for the trouble he caused for Caius, but never intended to hurt innocents like Dilia or her child. However, he wanted the Spartan, Connors, and Vibius to think that he would go any length to destroy his enemies. Stop, please," the Spartan breathed heavily. There was no anger in his voice, he was pleading with Michael. "I will teach you a precious lesson today, Decimus. Every action has a reaction." When he flicked his wrist, Connors saw a Ling syringe appear in his hand. "No Pulch." Decimus received another punch to his gut. This time, the blood and saliva came spraying out of his mouth. Maxine grabbed Decimus' hair, keeping his head straight so he could look at Lucifer and the baby. "Shit," Gibson cursed as he saw Lucifer injecting the needle into the baby's tiny arm. He was stunned completely as he started to sweat. He knew Lucifer was ruthless, but he had never imagined he would be cruel and ruthless enough to hurt a newborn child. Please," the words barely escaped Decimus' mouth. Connors was not a big fan of Spartans, but even he felt pity for Decimus at the moment. Your child will have the poison running through his veins all his life because of your mistake. With a snap of my fingers, I can activate the poison and end his life just like that. Connors felt a chill running through his spine. If Lucifer could do that to a baby, Connors couldn't even imagine what he's gonna do to the grown-ups like them. As for your wife, Michael looked down at Dilia before turning his gaze back at the Spartan. She will make a great snack for the sharks, Pulch. Before even the words could sink into Decimus' mind, Michael punched him so hard on the head, immediately knocking him out. The senators who heard his words, including Vibius, shivered in fear. Gibson's legs kept shivering. Gibson never thought Lucifer would suddenly turn back to look at him. When his crimson-red eyes landed on his entire body shuddered. Clean this up, Michael gave a simple order before walking back to his throne. On his way to the throne, he could see the fear in Vibius' eyes. By the look in their eyes, his tactics worked. For them, the wife's gonna end up as shark food, but in reality, Maxine would drop Decimus, his child, and the wife in a faraway kingdom from Giselle with enough gold coins to start a new life with a warning from Lucifer. Of course, Decimus would be placed under surveillance. Nonetheless, he would never be able to step on Giselle ever again or show his face. Hi my wonderful readers, this day completes my 2 years journey as an author. I want to thank all my wonderful readers for supporting me until now. Your comments, reviews, and criticisms not only boosted my happiness but also made me a better writer. I am extremely happy and honored to announce that my third book, Rise of the Legendary Emperor, will be released 23rd of this month. And I'm happier to announce that my next adventure, Dictator with a Badass System, will be released this month. I hope every one of you would continue to lend me your support. The schedule of HBS will not be affected in any way by the new novel. Please show me your support by leaving your comment under this chapter. This is my life now, so I hope everyone will stick with me and support me. Always your goofy author, Dandusu. Chapter 399. After sending Decimus, Dilia, and their baby down into the lower decks, Michael sat on the throne. His throne was located just before the captain's cabin. The senators were lined up in front of him. They were made to kneel down. Connors remained a couple of meters back from the senators. Where are we? Let us go. Whoever you are, you just made a huge mistake. Few of the senators dared to threaten Michael. Since they were blindfolded, they didn't see his frightening figure. At the moment, Michael's full focus was on Vibius and Connors. Of course, Michael had no idea about Connors' deeds. If he knew Connors killed Jack, Connors would have been bleeding on the floor. While he was waiting for Gibson and Maxine, Michael closed his eyes, calming himself down. He could feel the bloodlust inside him yet again. System, when will you have the answers to my problems? Michael asked the system. When he upgraded the system, he thought he would have his answers. However, the system asked him to upgrade it once again, but the system gave him no guarantee that it would have answers for his third persona problem if he upgraded it. He was asking questions related to his bloodlust. He got no answers except the system's notification, asking him to upgrade it. Please upgrade the system. System level is too low to answer the host. What about the other matter? Do you have the schematics and the parts? Of course, the schematics and the parts would cost the host 10,000 badass points. After upgrading Inventor skill to star level 4, he got 200,000 badass points. To upgrade the skill to 5-star, the system required 180,000 points. Because he had to go to a new realm, he decided to save enough points. The 10,000 points for the schematics and the parts were absolutely necessary. The device in his mind required one important resource that he lacked until now. If he could build the device, it would give him a huge advantage over the Guardians in the southern continent. If I'm right, I can build 7 devices with the parts. But I still need more of them to make the device work? As he was thinking about the new device, he saw Gibson and Maxine climb out of the lower decks. Gibson seemed more relaxed. When he issued the order to kill Dilia, Michael noticed Gibson's face become pale. Obviously, Gibson was questioning his judgment to follow Lucifer at that moment. Although Gibson was a pirate, he wasn't cutthroat or an evil person. Michael knew he was a soldier before becoming a pirate. If he ordered to kill Decimus, Gibson wouldn't have felt a thing because Decimus was trying to screw things up for Michael. But Delia and the baby were innocent, they did nothing to him. Hence, when Michael ordered Maxine to kill Delia and injected the baby with something, Gibson was startled. As usual, Michael expected everything. Hence, he ordered Maxine to reveal everything to Gibson when they were away from the senators. He was ruthless but not evil to inject the baby with poison. Decimus would forever be afraid of Lucifer, thinking his child could die any moment if he messed with Lucifer again. The child, however, was injected with nothing but water. "It's done, my lord." When she came to his side, Maxine said with enough volume to let everyone hear her. She stood on his right side while Gibson stood on the left side. "Take off their blindfolds," Michael asked as Maxine nodded before making her way to the senators. In a few moments, she removed all the blindfolds, letting the senators finally take a look at where they are and who they are dealing with. The 5 senators blinked several times to make their vision clear. After a few moments, their eyes landed on Lucifer. The moment they saw him sitting on his frightening throne made of skulls and bones, they gasped in shock. Their bodies began to shiver. "Shut their mouths, they don't need to speak," Michael ordered Maxine. While they were still in shock, Maxine used the cloth that was used as the blindfold to cover their mouth. Not him and him. When she was about to wrap the blindfold around Vibius' mouth, he stopped her. The other senators turned sideways to see Vibius. They were slightly relieved for a moment, but seeing Vibius was also tied just like the rest of them, they started to panic. Senator Vibius and Guardian Connors. Connors was stunned as black lines appeared on his forehead. He couldn't guess how Lucifer knew about his identity. Instinctively, he looked down to see his space ring missing. Michael stared at the scared faces of the senators for a few moments. On second thoughts, with a flick of his wrist, he took syringes filled with emerald green liquid out of his space ring. "Chang." Some of the senators squirmed in fear. Connors and Vibius stared at the syringes slowly floating towards the senators. They stopped in the air a couple of inches away from the senators for a moment. Poch. Then several seconds later, each of the senators was stabbed by a syringe. In a few blinks of an eye, all the senators collapsed onto the floor. Vibius felt dread in his core. He wasn't sure if they were alive or dead. Since he saw issuing an order to kill a commoner and poisoning a baby, Vibius didn't lean much on the side of the senators being alive. "You've been a bad boy, Senator Vibius. Sending troops to harass the border soldiers of Giselle, ordering the soldiers to wipe out a few villages, buying hundreds of slaves, and robbing people of their freedoms, the list goes on." He was disgusted by Vibius. The only reason Michael had not killed him yet was the item he received from Vibius. He then turned his gaze towards Connors. "Tell me, Guardian Connors, you people calling me evil, demon, and Dark Lord. Is he not evil?" Michael pointed at Vibius. "He would have been evil if he wasn't much use to your guild, am I right?" The Guardian Guild disgusted him the most, even more than Vibius or any slave traders in southern continent. If he could, he would wipe out the entire Guardian Guild in front of Noah and Andreas' eyes. He wanted to prove the Guardian Guild was nothing but a corrupted organization filled with scumbags. Compared to them, the Order of Death didn't look evil at all. Connor didn't answer but stared at him without uttering a word. He was thinking of a way to leave this place alive. As far as Connor could tell, if Lucifer could kill an innocent woman and poison her baby, killing him would not be hard at all. As he was remaining without uttering a word, he saw the woman walking towards him. Bam! Vibius saw Connor's 2 molars flying out of his mouth along with blood and saliva. Maxine's punch was so powerful that it made Connor's face hit the ground hard. "Lord Lucifer asked you a question." Cough. Cough. Arg. Connors coughed up a mouthful of blood. He felt an excruciating pain in his mouth due to the sudden removal of the molars. "I know I am right," Michael calmly said. He didn't mind Maxine punching Connors. Her loyalty and the way she acted made him happy. She was shaping up to be a loyal and powerful bodyguard. Her loyalty to him was unparalleled. Just his look was enough for her to understand his intentions. She was one of the reasons that he wanted to build the device as soon as possible before he leaves for Ukilan Realm. "The 2 of you should tell me everything you know about this?" Michael flicked his wrist yet again. This time, Instead of a syringe, the crystal Vibius received appeared in his hand. After he reached Maven, he planned to kidnap all the senators and subdue them except Vibius. When he sent the spiders into Vibius Manor, he was surprised to see the senator talking with a guardian. What surprised him more was the crystal he saw in Connor's hands. While they were unconscious, Michael was studying the crystal. It was pure arch energy. He had never expected to see a pure arch energy source such as the crystal. Unlike Vibius and Connors were thinking, the crystal did not contain arch energy within. The crystal itself was arch energy. The crystal was a crystallized form of arch energy. A pure source of arch energy was the object that he lacked to build a device that would enable all of Michael's subordinates to use spells in the southern continent. The crystallized arch energy could not be directly absorbed completely. The arch energy radiation could help cultivators cast weak spells. That's how Connors was able to conjure fire sparks holding the crystal. The device Michael was planning to build would help the subordinates or whoever wearing the device absorbs arch energy. This would help them cultivate in the southern continent without crossing the void line. If his subordinates absorbed enough arch energy from the crystal with the help of his device, they could reach the body strengthening stage. The higher stages of cultivation would require them to absorb thousands of crystal stones such as the one in his hand. Unless there was another type or more powerful crystals in the place where Vibius got the crystal, giving subordinates thousands of crystals would not be very efficient. "Where did you get this crystal?" Michael asked. His voice was cold as it sent a chill running through Vibius' spine. Vibius' heart shuddered. The crystal was supposed to be his way to reach the top in life. He planned to use the crystals as a bargaining chip to get help from the Guardians and conquer all the southern continent. However, if Lucifer took over the Stormvale Mountain, his dream of becoming the ruler of the southern continent would be shattered. Vibius was stuck in a conundrum. If he didn't tell where he got the crystal, Lucifer would take over the mountain, which would make him the ruler of the southern continent. If he did not tell him, Lucifer would either torture him or just kill him. I can lie to him or tell him the truth, but what if he kills me afterward? Vibius questioned himself. In a split second, he had an idea. Unless I make him trust me, the medallion of the Order of Death appeared in his mind. Chapter 400, I am. Order of Death, my lord, Vibius stuttered. Michael was bewildered. Maxine stared at Vibius in shock. No one should know about the order unless they were high up in the Guardian Guild. Vibius didn't seem like he held any position in the Guardian Guild. I can prove myself, Vibius' words confused Connors. He was wondering what the hell Order of Death is. My inner pocket, Vibius looked down at his chest. Michael gave Maxine a nod to take whatever was inside his pocket. After taking the crystal from unconscious Connors, he was too focused on the crystal as he didn't bother to search Vibius. Yet he ordered Gibson to do a thorough search, but it seemed Gibson failed the task a bit. First, Maxine ran her hand through Vibius' chest, shoulder, and arms to find if he had any weapons hidden. Making sure he had none, she put her hand inside Vibius' toga. Surprisingly, Maxine found a hidden pocket in his toga. The tiny pocket was very well hidden. No wonder Gibson failed to find the pocket, Maxine thought. My lord, a moment later, Michael saw Maxine's eyes open wide in shock. He looked at her hand to see a glowing coin. The coin looked exactly the same as the medallion he found on Maxine's neck when he first fought her. Connors stared at the woman handing over the glowing coin to Lucifer. Gibson, on the other hand, wondered why Vibius was not able to rip off the ropes that tied his hands. He knew the medallion on her chest is the reason for her monstrous strength. If he used the ropes to tie Maxine, she would rip it off in a mere second. Vibius could have done the same if he had worn the medallion from his birth. He kept the medallion in a locker instead of wearing it. His ancestor worried that the medallion was making the wearer a slave to the Dark Lord. Hence, Vibius chose not to wear it just in case. Plus, he never believed in the Dark Lord's existence. In his mind, he thought it was all made up by the elders of the Order to scare people into submission. After all, he knew fear makes people submit. For a few moments, Michael just stared at the glowing medallion on his palm. He could feel the pulsating energy coming from within the coin. The energy pulses were not as strong as Maxine's coin. Somehow the medallion felt weaker than Maxine's. Anyway, this proved Vibius was one of the descendants of the elders who survived the Guardian attack. Before seeing the medallion, Maxine wanted to end Vibius' life. She started to have as the medallion basically made them brother and sister in arms. Loyalty to the Dark Lord and the fellow members of the Order was what made the Order so powerful enough to rule the world from shadows for centuries. But a betrayal from one elder collapsed the entire Order as though it was a house made of cards. Your ancestor, Damien Zane. We are the Zane family, my lord. Vibius hoped the Dark Lord don't know about his ancestors' secret deals with the Guardians. Only one in the world knew about Damien's betrayal, and it wasn't the Dark Lord. You are a descendant of my worshippers. Vibius saw him rub his chin. Since you are a descendant, I'll let go of your sins. But only if you tell me where did you get the crystal. Obviously, the crystal was found in Stormvale Mountain. Why else would Vibius have sent his troops to occupy the mountain despite the peace talks and agreements? Still, Michael wanted to hear it from Vibius, just to make sure he was telling the truth. Stormvale Mountain, my lord. I can show you the operation. Vibius was not an idiot to lie to the Dark Lord. If he was right, the Dark Lord would already know about his attack on Stormvale Castle. He always had a weird feeling about what happened in Giselle. The entire Senate wiped out in an explosion, Caius being the sole survivor, and then him replacing the Senate with his underlings seemed too coincidental. The Dark Lord definitely had a hand in what happened in Giselle. Everything that happened a few moments earlier made sense to Vibius. He was able to quickly connect the dots. Caius must be Dark Lord's man. The Dark Lord took out the senator for Caius. Decimus started an investigation to prove what happened that day. The Dark Lord found out through Caius about the investigation, and the rest was history. How big is the operation? Who else knows about the crystals? 120 slaves are mining the crystals as we speak, my lord. Except you and me, only Guardian Connors and my Spartan Captain Hostus knows about the existence of the crystals. Michael could hear a hesitation every time Vibius addressed him as my lord. He then turned his gaze towards Connors. Guardian Connors, did you tell anyone about the crystals? Alpha Guardian of Hunter Guardians, no. They must be looking for me as we speak. Connors didn't show any fear in his voice. The way he saw it, he had very little chance of getting out of the ship alive unless he could make Lucifer think he has to keep him alive. If the Alpha Guardian was searching for him, Lucifer might decide to keep him hostage. Every Guardian undertaking a secret mission had a handler assigned to them. Connors' handler was in Maven, and every night, Connors had to report to him. If he didn't, the handler would know something happened to him and look for him. The last time Connors met the handler, he told the handler he was going to meet with Vibius. Hence, the handler would definitely start to look for him from Vibius Manor. If Vibius was spared by Lucifer, the handler would investigate him and hopefully realize something was wrong. Otherwise, the handler would investigate both Vibius and his disappearance. These investigations would often lead to calling the Hunter Guardians, who were specialized in tracking and investigating. Connors just hoped the hunters would somehow find him. All he had to do was stay alive until they did. Is that so? Connors heard him chuckle. Michael already decided what to do with the Guardian. Therefore, he wasn't worried about whether he was lying or not. He turned his gaze back at Vibius. Are you willing to serve me and honor your ancestors, Vibius Zane? Gibson had a bad feeling in his gut. When Caius was telling about what Vibius was doing to amass military power, he saw Lucifer's eyes flicker in red. This often led to a death or multiple deaths. Yes, my lord. Vibius heaved a sigh of relief inside. He just needed to get out of the ship, sneak past the Dark Lord's security measure if he had any, warn the Guardians, and help them kill the Dark Lord. Thousands of years ago, his ancestor destroyed the Order, and now he was presented with an opportunity to cut the head of the snake. As far as Vibius was concerned, the Dark Lord pushed him to do this. Good. Let me welcome you to the Order with a little gift. Michael stood up from his throne. As he was walking towards Vibius, he flicked his wrist. In a few blinks of an eye, several syringes appeared yet again. The bluish syringes immediately stabbed the senators who were on the ground in the neck. Their eyes were abruptly opened. Their bodies shuddered as though they were hit with an electric bolt. The senators didn't dare to utter a word because Lucifer was standing so close to them. They were afraid of pissing off this monster. Michael lifted Vibius from the ground by his shoulder with one hand. He then ripped off the ropes that tied his hands while a blade of wind cut the ropes that tied his legs. Senators of Maven, we have a proposition for you. Michael placed his hand on Vibius' shoulder, talking to the senators. Their eyes were glued to Lucifer. You have two choices. The first choice, swear you loyalty to me and you will not only get out of here with your lives but also get rich and powerful. Michael paused for a moment before continuing. The second choice, you can choose not to swear your loyalty and you can hope someone would come and save you from me. Vibius saw Lucifer's hands slowly moving from his shoulder to neck, like our Senator Vibius here. The very next moment, the senators saw Lucifer clutch Vibius' neck. He lifted Vibius off the ground by his neck as Vibius began to squirm in his hand. Michael's hold was too strong as Vibius' face turned purple in a few mere moments. He was hoping the guardians would come and rescue him. The man behind you is a guardian and I see no one coming to save him. The senators looked over their shoulders to see a woman holding a knife against the youngster's throat. Let me show you what will happen when you go with the second choice. The surrounding air became a bit chilly as he spoke in his cold voice. Pulch! Suddenly Michael punched Vibius in the chest. For a moment, Connor's eyes closed when the blood splashed on his face. As he opened his eyes, he felt a chill running through his spine. Lucifer's hand was sticking out of Vibius' back. In his hand, he saw the beating heart that oozed blood on the ground. Vibius was violently shaking in his arms, but his body gradually stopped squirming as the light of light slowly left his eyes. One of the senators couldn't help shouting in fear. Michael put the lifeless body of Vibius on the ground before stepping towards the senators. The heart was still in his hand. Time to make your choice, senators Creech. Michael crushed the heart in his hand, spraying blood on their faces. Their faces were as pale as a white sheet. He could even see one senator wet his toga in utter terror. You are next, darling. Connors heard the woman whisper into his ear before everything turned dark. Chapter 401. In the eastern border that separated Giselle and Maven, Stormvale Mountain stood tall. The mountain range was almost 1,000 miles long and reached 40,000 feet at its highest point, and many of its slopes were extremely treacherous. Most of the lower range was covered in a dense forest. Not even a single ray of sunlight peeked through the stormy clouds above the mountain. The howling sound of the wind created an ominous feel around the mountain along with the stormy weather. Hence, the name Stormvale Mountain. The upper regions of the mountain frequently experienced heavy rain with violent mini-cyclones. There was no paved road to the mountain. The area around the mountain had a grayish color due to the storm clouds. The trees in the forest were frantically waving in the wind. My lord, Michael sat on his sofa in the airship, looking at the mountain in the distance through the window when he heard Maxine. Gibson has reached the Witch's Island. After dealing with Vibius and the senators, Michael sent Gibson to the Witch's Island. They were stationed near the island as it was a short journey for Gibson to the Witch's Island. Michael teleported the senators to Maven before teleporting himself and Maxine back into the airship. Currently, he was on his way to see Stormvale Mountain. He took a 3-hour meditation break which gave enough time for the senators to withdraw the soldiers from the Stormvale Mountain. It looks freaky, my lord. Maxine bent her back to look through the window. The howling wind coupled with thunderclaps and lightning streaks in the sky would make anyone feel terrific or at least some dread in their core. The tallest peak of the mountain could not be seen as it passed through the clouds in the sky. The tallest mountain on the earth would look like a boulder in front of Stormvale Mountain. He could feel the airship begin to shake due to the stormy wind. As they got closer to the mountain, the louder the noise of heavy rain hitting the roof sounded. Regardless that this was the middle of the day, it looked as though late evening because of the darkness. Boom, boom, boom. Lightning flashed in the dark sky and thunders shook the air. The airship soon started to shake violently. Maxine almost lost her balance. She quickly grabbed onto the sofa and steadied herself. My lord, we can't fly any further without risking a crash landing. Caius came running to them. Tell him to stop the airship and go back to Giselle. Michael stood up from his sofa. But my lord, Caius seemed reluctant to leave them in the Stormvale Mountain. This mountain range was one of the most dangerous places in the southern continent. Countless travelers and soldiers lost their lives in the terrain. Still, they were not Lucifer and Maxine. While I'm away, use this to communicate with the other senators. With a flick of his wrist, he took an earpiece from his space ring. All the other senators were given an earpiece so they could talk to Caius. In addition to earpieces, they were also wearing spy-cam pendants. Hence, Azazel could monitor them 24/7. If they tried to remove the pendant, the venom inside the sitter-cam would be injected into them, taking their lives instantly. Michael made his way towards the door as Maxine followed him behind. He stood before the door before wrapping his arm around Maxine's slender waist. He pulled her closer as he opened the door. The moment the door was opened, a powerful force of wind almost pushed them backward. Without wasting any time, he jumped out of the airship, wind blast. In the mid-air, he turned his back, sending a blast of wind to shut the door behind him. Aha! Maxine couldn't hold her screams. She hugged him tightly and closed her eyes. Her hair and long coat were fluttering violently, but they soon got drenched in the rain. Lightning dash, he cast the spell to quicken his pace. No matter how many times he flew, he could never get used to the fact that he's actually flying like a Superman. The feeling of flying was magical. The lush green forest below them was covered by a hazy fog. The wind and rain brushed past his face so fast that it made him close his eyes occasionally. As they got closer to the mountain, the sight of the gigantic mountain frightened him. They looked so miniature in front of the mountain. He noticed a few figures on the ground. Quickly he flew away before anyone could notice him, not that anyone could with the stormy weather. Land, thank God. When her feet touched the ground, she heaved a sigh of relief. Get used to flying because, he let her go, soon you will fly. For a moment she looked frightened. Still, she nodded, controlling her fear of flying. They were currently standing on a narrow path between the forest and the mountain's footsteps. They noticed several figures in ragged clothes or naked walking out of the mountain. He must be Hostus. He looked at the Spartan soldier who was overseeing the slaves. The soldier was staring at a parchment. In his focus on the parchment, the Spartan almost failed to hear the footsteps of Michael and Maxine. One could not blame the Spartan for not hearing the footsteps because the howling sound of the wind and the heavy rain would prevent anyone from hearing the sound of footsteps. Spartan Hostus. The Spartan shuddered hearing the sudden voice. Who are you? You shouldn't be here. The Spartan reached for his scimitar hanging on his waist. Calm down, Spartan. Senator Vibius sent us. The Spartan frowned. Despite the golden helmet with a huge red feather, Michael could still notice the frown on his face. Still, he couldn't see his face completely, but he never cared about how the Spartan looked under the helmet. I never heard anything about someone visiting the mountain from Senator Vibius. Hostus' hand was still on the hilt of his scimitar. Obviously, he didn't believe them. Senator gave us this. Michael slowly put his hand inside his coat pocket as the Spartan stared at him without batting an eye. See, when Hostus saw Michael taking out the crystal, he was stunned. We don't have much time to play around, Spartan. Giselle's Spartan army is on its way here. Michael handled situations like this before back on Earth. When the opposite person was in doubt, rushed them, giving them no time to think. Until he learned as much as he could from Hostus about the mining operation, he didn't want to kill him. That was the reason Hostus was still alive. What? Spartan army? Shit, you can mumble later, Spartan. Now we have a job to do. Tell me you finished evacuating the slaves as your order said you to. The parchment in Hostus' hand contained signed letters of the senators Michael spared. It was a pity he didn't get a signed letter from Vibius before killing him. Since he did not need Vibius for much, he didn't bother. Maxine thought the sole reason for Vibius' death was his sins. However, that was only one of the reasons. The other reason was Vibius' loyalty level. When the system prompted him whether he wanted Vibius as his subordinate or not, Vibius' loyalty level was at 0.2%. Vibius had everything and craved too much power. Raising his loyalty would be a headache, and his gut feeling told him to kill Vibius because Vibius had gone too far with his killings of innocents and slaves. There was no way Michael would make such a murderous psycho his subordinate. Yes, those are the last of them. The order said I have to send them to the Giselle border. What if those slaves tried to escape? Hostis asked as Michael made his way to the mine entrance. Don't bother, we have bigger things to worry about. Show me the mining site inside. Spartan Hostis fastened his steps to walk forward. As they walked deeper into the mine, the darker it became. Only a few torches hanging on the wall were their light source. Anything I should know before those assholes come here to check the place? What assholes, my lord? Hostis addressed him as my lord. Coupled with the fact his attitude, the fact that he has the crystal indicated the youngster was someone from a high place, perhaps a noble related to Vibius. There is a group of guardians coming. Peace talk or some shit like that. We need to make sure they do not find out about the existence of these crystals. Michael was making stuff up as he walked. Guardians? Hostis was stunned. Nothing major, my lord. Just a few slaves died inside. I cleaned up their bodies, so no problem. Michael frowned but didn't stop walking deeper into the mine. What's the cause of death? He asked the Spartan. For a few seconds, Hostis remained silent. You didn't bother to check, did you? He sighed as the Spartan scratched the back of his helmet. Eventually, after walking for almost half an hour, they started to see a few glimmers of bluish light deeper into the mine. Soon the narrow path opened up into a large spacious area where they saw crystals in the walls, ground, and above them. Hundreds of people could occupy the area. It was enormous. He could see the crystal in various sizes. On the other side of the area, he noticed a narrow opening as well as tools such as hammers, shovels, crowbars, and large picks. Where does that lead to? Michael pointed at the narrow opening and asked Hostis. Deeper into the mountain, my lord. Those slaves died caving the pathway. Why did they die? What's on the other side? Michael had a bad feeling in his gut. With utmost caution, he made his way to the narrow path through the rocky ground. New chapter of Roll 2 is up. Link is in the comments section. Hi, my wonderful readers. I take this moment to thank my dear friend and fan God of Cat for reforming my server and being a huge help in the making of Roll 2. Thank you, buddy, for helping me these last couple of weeks. You've been a wonderful friend. Chapter 402. Michael was squeezing through the narrow crack to get to the other side. Hostis followed him behind while Maxine entered through the crack last. As he squeezed through the crack, the torch he had in his hand got put out. The sudden darkness worked in his favor though. Without Hostis noticing, Michael cast the death range spell. His strength exploded thanks to the darkness. He pushed the rock in front of him while pushing back the rock behind him using his back. The narrow crack creaked as it got wider. Maxine could breathe a little considering the narrow crack became wider. Although Hostis felt the crack widening, he didn't think the youngster before him had the strength to move the mountain literally. My lord, can you see the other side? Maxine breathed heavily. Even after the crack widened, she had a hard time squeezing through the crack due to her body shape. I can feel the air, just a bit more, he answered. He sensed tiredness in Maxine's voice. It was weird of her to get exhausted. I don't feel very good. Just after Maxine talked, Hostis also opened his mouth. Surprisingly, the Spartan also sounded exhausted, more exhausted than Maxine. Quit whining, just a bit more. He focused on squeezing through the crack. When he was a little child, he had an extreme claustrophobic condition. He had that condition until he trained with Spectre. One day when Spectre knew about Michael's fear of closed spaces, Spectre put him in a casket and buried him for an entire day. Spectre made him face his own fears rather than running away from them. In the end, he was able to let go of the fear of closed spaces. Until Spectre went crazy and ordered assassins to kill the orphanage Michael cared about, he was not only a mentor to him but also a father figure. Everything Michael knew, he learned from Spectre. Deep down in his heart, he still missed the old guy. Warning! Warning! Suddenly his entire 8 sight was filled with warning messages from the system. His train of thoughts immediately stopped by the screaming noises inside his head. Extreme amount of radiation. The host has been exposed to an extreme amount of radiation. Immediate action required. The system recommends the host to purchase and use 100% healing potion. The healing potion would prevent the radiation from permanently causing damage to the host for 30 minutes. Shit. Maxine, go back. He was startled. Immediately turning his head towards Maxine, he shouted, "One potion would cost the host 5,000 badass points. Does the host wish to buy the healing potion?" "Yes." "Do it." "Buy 2" Michael shouted in his mind at the system. Arg. Several seconds after the warning, he started to feel a vomiting sensation as well as muscle pain because of the radiation. Using his remaining strength in his body, Michael began to push the mountain wall forward with his legs. He let out a loud cry, pushing the mountain back and forth. He was not strong enough to move the mountain, but strong enough to widen the crack several inches more, which would make escaping the narrow crack easier for Maxine. As he made the crack open wide, the system gave him the healing potion. He wasted no time as he immediately chugged the entire potion in one gulp. "Maxine, drink this." He completely ignored Hostis, who was between Michael and Maxine. The Spartan leaned back on the wall to stand straight. He was breathing heavily. Completely ignoring Hostis, Michael conjured a ball of flame which lightened up the dark mine. He then tossed the sparkling blue healing potion towards Maxine. The potion was sparkling as though it was liquid gold. Maxine was having trouble standing straight. She felt her muscles become weak and had a killing headache. In addition to muscle pain and headache, she felt like she was going to faint any second. Still, mustering all the strength in her body, she raised her hand, catching the potion in the midair. Wind blast. Just like him, Maxine too chugged the healing potion in one go. The moment she finished the healing potion, Michael sent a powerful blast of wind towards her. The powerful gust of wind pushed both Hostis and Maxine out of the narrow crack. Unlike Maxine and Hostis, he didn't run out of the narrow crack but pushed himself deeper into the crack. Lightning dash. He cast the spell and willed the system to equip his Lucifer armor. In a split second, he transformed into his complete Lucifer form. The metal plates attached to the armor scratched with the rough walls on either side, creating sparks of fire. If it wasn't for the armor, the skin on his arms would have been scrapped off like a carrot by the rough walls. With the help of lightning dash, he pushed himself out of the crack. Whoa! Michael's reflexes saved him yet again as he was just an inch away from falling down into a pit below him. The ground ended after several meters from the narrow path opening. What in front of him was nothing but an endless dark pit. Wow! He looked down into the dark pit. The hole was as large as the meteor crater of Arizona or wider. He could not see the end of the dark pit. It was pitch black. What is this place? He looked around in shock. Above the crater, he was able to see countless crystals brighter than the one he got from Vibius on the roof. These crystals were blood red and bigger in size. However, Michael was afraid to fly to the crystals and mine them without knowing what was lying inside the hole. System, if something went wrong, buy a teleportation scroll and teleport me and Maxine to a safe distance. Is the host planning to jump into the endless pit? Of course not. He took out a drone from his space ring. Standing on the edge of the crater, he looked down once again before sending the drone flying down into the deep dark pit. His heart was pounding against his chest. The mere sight of the gigantic pitch-black pit freaked him out. Azazel, are you seeing the footage of the drone I just deployed? Yes, my lord, Azazel's grim voice sounded in his head. System, record everything. He could see the footage being captured by the drone in his mind. The drone disappeared from his eyesight, yet he noticed nothing but darkness. Jun! Suddenly a ground-shaking groan emerged deep from the pit. The very next moment, the drone footage disappeared before glitching. The drone crumbled into bits and pieces. Shit. Michael's legs took steps backward in fear. Lightning dash. He immediately cast the spell, wasting no time. Under his skull mask, his face was pale as he was drenched in sweat. He never felt overwhelmingly terrified before in his life. He ran away from the pit without even turning back. Screech! The armor collided with the walls, producing sparks as he dashed away from the pit. The armor was completely disfigured and lost its shiny metallic black color. Boom! As he exited the narrow crack, he stumbled down and went sliding for a couple of meters before stopping. My lord! Maxine shouted, seeing him coming out crashing down. However, before she could run towards him, Michael kicked up. He didn't stand still but yet again activated a lightning dash towards the narrow crack opening. This time when he reached the opening, he didn't squeeze through. He grabbed the two sides of the mountain and pulled them closer using all of his strength. His shout echoed through the mine. Every single muscle in his body popped up as the armor began to crack. There were also cracks formed up in the walls of the mountain on either side of the narrow opening. Maxine was completely stunned by his show of raw strength. She saw the narrow opening closing up inch by inch. It seemed like he was moving the mountain itself. Closing the opening was not easy at all. He could feel his consciousness drifting away. Yet, he pushed himself to the absolute limit because what he saw was nothing but death. He stared death in its eyes and came back. Boom. Eventually, after several seconds, the crack finally shut, producing a booming sound. Maxine came running to him when he collapsed down to the ground. She didn't worry about Hostas because the Spartan bled to death. It was a horrible death. He bled through all the pores and holes in his body. He kept twitching like a fish out of the water before losing his life forever. My lord, what happened? Maxine knelt on his side before taking his head in her hand. She placed his head on her lap. System? Michael mumbled under his breath using the last bit of his strength. Teleport, dark, forest. Maxine felt the air around her become chilly. She had experienced this before. Hence, she held Michael closer and closed her eyes. When she opened her eyes, she was in a dark, cozy room. What happened? Fuck! Maxine shouted. She was startled by Azazel's sudden appearance. What the fuck are you? It's not important. Put my lord on the bed. Azazel pointed at the bed. His ethereal face had a worried look. Maxine growled, lifting Michael. With his armor, he was a little too heavy. Careful, Azazel exclaimed. She almost collapsed onto the bed with him because of his weight. The moment you go back to the mountain, close the area you were in. Maxine didn't know what the hell is the figure floating before her, but she could sense the fear in his voice. Do you know what happened and why Lord Lucifer closed the opening? Dormant Hydra. Both of them heard Michael's voice. They turned their heads to the bed to see Lucifer standing up. The Hydra is in Stormvale Mountain. Hi, my wonderful readers. This day completes my 2 years journey as an author. I want to thank all my wonderful readers for supporting me until now. Your comments, reviews, and criticisms not only boosted my happiness but also made me a better writer. I am extremely happy and honored to announce that my third book, Rise of the Legendary Emperor, will be released 23rd of this month. And I'm happier to announce that my next adventure, Dictator with a Badass System, will be released this month. I hope every one of you would continue to lend me your support. The schedule of HBS will not be affected in any way by the new novel. Please show me your support by leaving your comment under this chapter. This is my life now, so I hope everyone will stick with me and support me. Always your goofy author, Donderskuffle. New chapter of Roll 2 is up. Link is in the comments section. Chapter 403, Hydra? My lord, I thought Vidora is the only Hydra in this world, Maxine muttered. Michael removed his mask as well as his chest armor to breathe a little. I have to see something. Michael walked out of the room as Maxine and Azazel followed him behind. As usual, the Netherals were cleaning the corridors as though they were professional maids. Azazel attached blue orbs on the ceiling to lighten up the place. They didn't provide light like eclectic bulbs, but they provided enough to make navigating through the corridors easier. After a while of walking, they reached a grayish door that stood 7 foot tall. The door had intricate carvings which seemed like Lucifer battling several soldiers on a battlefield filled with skulls. Michael pushed the door open to see a spacious room. All 4 walls had mirrors the size of a 24-inch monitor glued to them. Each monitor showed a view. Previously, this room was used as the armory by the Order of Death. The weapons they stored in the room were corroded and rusted with time. They became unusable. Except for the mirrors, there was a glistening white orb that remained in the center of the room on a 4-foot pillar. Welcome to the place of power, Maxine. Michael greeted Maxine with a smile. He then walked towards the center of the room. He took a minute to comprehend the potential of the surveillance room. Currently from this room, he could watch over Breedia, some places in Kethan and Royal Land. If he could deploy thousands of spiders all over the world, he would have a bigger surveillance system than anyone in the world. The white orb worked as a hard disk. It stored every single footage. If required, Michael could access the footage through the system. Other than him, only Azazel had access to the footage. My lord, is that? Maxine pointed at one of the mirrors. Her voice trailed away. Michael looked at the mirror pointed by Maxine to see Pirate Lord Corey sleeping on a comfy bed with a naked man. Then Maxine turned her head to the mirror next to see Shorty picking his nose. She even saw her old crew having a party on her ship anchored at the Pirate Cove. In her shock, she failed to notice the black mirror that had no footage on the corner of the wall. She couldn't help feeling her privacy being invaded. Are you feeling like your privacy is being invaded, Maxine? As though he was a mind reader, Michael asked what she was feeling. Maxine was stunned by his question. She wanted to shake her head, but she hesitated. Can you see the footage of your room in those mirrors? Maxine looked around the room, staring at every single mirror, including the black mirror. Eventually, after several moments later, she found no mirror that showed the footage of her room in Bertha or her old ship. I don't spy on people I trust. And if I did, it's for your own safety. The Guardians and my enemies will use the people closest to me to get to me. If I don't watch over them, best case they will die. Worst case, they will be tortured until they are broken. His words were somehow soothed her down. It also made sense to her. If she was captured by Guardians, she would want Lucifer to locate her and come to her rescue. Take this. Maxine saw the pendant they previously gave to the senators appear in his hand. When you don't want to be watched, remove it and place it somewhere safe. He handed over the spycam pendant to Maxine. Yes, my lord, she could feel that Lucifer really trusts her. That warmed her heart deeply. Just as he explained, he wasn't spying on his loyal subordinates because he could see their loyalty in the system window. Yet he was watching over them in case they got into trouble. After she wore the pendant around her neck, Michael waved his hand as every single mirror in front of them went black. System, play the footage captured by the drone. He willed the system. Azazel and Maxine stared at the flickering screens in front of them. Play it in slow motion, he ordered the system. Without uttering a word, they all stared at the screens. At the moment, all the mirrors worked as a single gigantic screen. For several moments, the screens showed nothing but pitch-black darkness. Then, for a split second, Maxine noticed 3 pairs of crimson-red glow deep within the dark pit. The very next moment, the screens glitched and stopped moving. Play it again slower. The footage started again. This time, Maxine didn't even blink. She looked closer at the red glows that appeared for a brief second. Michael let out a deep breath. It was dark and the red glow appeared only for a split second, but he knew what he saw. They were not just red glows or glitches in the footage. They were pairs of eyes, 3 pairs of eyes. The 3 pairs of eyes, the high radiation, the size of the eyes, and his gut feeling told him that it was the Hydra resting at the end of the dark pit. If his guess was correct, the Hydra would be 3 times the size of King Ghidorah. Just imagining it terrified him to the core. The Hydra might be the most powerful existence in this world. Fighting a monster such as this Hydra was nothing but asking for death. He realized why the system told him not to search for the Hydra until he could reach the immortal stage. Are those eyes, my lord? After seeing the footage in extreme slow motion, Maxine kinda guessed it. Yes. That Hydra is the reason no one in Southern Continent can become cultivators. Maxine's jaw slightly dropped. It's sucking all the arch energy in the atmosphere. As he said, he flicked his wrist, taking the crystal out from his space ring. These crystals must be the byproduct of arch energy gathering into the mountain. Azazel was hovering behind him. When he saw the crystal, he floated towards him in curiosity. He stared at the crystal for a moment. My lord, this is pure arch energy, the demon butler exclaimed. There must be pure arch energy crystals within the pit. He stood there looking at the screens with hands behind his back. Yet again, he played the footage to see the crimson eyes of the Hydra. Not worth the risk of waking that monster up. Azazel, my lord, tell Delar to summon as many as Netherals he could. We are going to mine the shit out of that mountain. He then turned his gaze towards Maxine. Maxine, make sure no one opens that pathway to the pit. If that Hydra wakes up, it will be game over for us. Maxine nodded, hearing his serious voice. She had never seen him serious such as this before. I will teleport the netherals into the mountain. Maxine will store all the crystals for me. How, my lord? Go look how are Arius brothers doing? Instead of answering how she would be able to store the crystals, Michael asked her to check on Arius brothers. After she left the room, he waved his hand as the dark footage changed into lively scenery. A woman standing on the top of a boulder could be seen. Her eyes were closed. Behind her was a majestic waterfall. The water sprayed by the waterfall coupled with the sunlight produced a beautiful miniature rainbow behind the woman. Layla Alden Azazel could recognize her with a single look despite her pregnant belly. The pendant Michael gave Layla was a special one. It had the spider he built as well as a tiny fly that could detach from itself from the pendant and fly around, taking footage of Layla from all angles. He bought it from the system as he lacked the materials and tools to build such a tiny camera. If one knew what happened between Layla and him, they would definitely mark him as a hypocrite. He was infuriated at his parents for abandoning him, but he did the same to the spirit child. Except he didn't abandon the child or Layla. He was watching over them. Only Michael was able to access the footage of Layla. Hence one mirror remained dark showing no footage. He just remained there watching Layla in silence. Take care of yourself and the kid Layla. Taking a last look at Layla, he waved his hand again as the mirrors went back to their normal state. He then left the surveillance room to resume his work of shadow ruling the world. When he reached his room, he sat on the table and placed the crystal in front of him. Bracelet or pendant? He asked himself before starting to build the device that would make his subordinates overpowered in the southern continent. Right at the moment, Maxine was standing before the tubular contaminants in Arius' room. She was staring at the two muscular men submerged in the sparkling blue liquid. Their limbs seemed to be growing, which was surprising for her. She knew this was another miracle the Dark Lord could perform. As she was staring at them, she heard the door behind her creak open. She turned back to see Lucifer entering the room. She quickly bowed. "Give me your hand." She reached out her right hand without asking a question. He took out a dark metal bracelet before putting it on her hand. "Ouch!" She let out a burst of cry when she suddenly felt a sharp pain around her wrist. It felt as though the bracelet pierced her wrist with hundreds of tiny needles. The pain quickly disappeared as he took out a red vial. "Drink." The red portion was not as watery as the potions she had drank before. It was thick, almost like jelly. It took her a second to swallow the tasteless, odorless jelly. Several seconds later, she felt an electric bolt running through her veins. She jolted as her entire body shivered. In addition, she was sweating. "Put this ring and concentrate on it." Taking a few deep breaths, she steadied herself. As he said, after she put the ring on, she began to concentrate on the ring. "Are you feeling a connection with the space ring?" Maxine nodded. She was still getting used to the new experience. "Put this inside." He then threw a healing potion towards her and waited for Maxine to put the healing potion into her space ring. Dark lines formed on her forehead due to her concentration, but after several seconds, the healing potion in her hand finally disappeared. And that's how you're gonna store the crystals. If everything went to plan, you will see Gaia in the next 2 chapters. Chapter 404. As Michael was building bracelets that allow his subordinates to use arch energy, 4 horses were pulling a fancy carriage through a thick forest. The forest was far-reaching, compact, and budding. Its canopy was eclipsed by a magnolia, asp, and dogwood. Still, plenty of light passed through their crowns for a plethora of sprouts to make use of the insect-riddled soils below. Curving branches waved from every tree, and a potpourri of flowers, which grew in abundance, clashed with the otherwise amber terrain. In addition to the horses galloping, a variety of animal sounds, most belonging to rummaging critters, reverberated through the air, and almost completely muffled the occasional roar of a large animal trying to scare away predators. From the outside, the carriage seemed rather generic, nothing special about it at all. However, the inside was exactly the opposite. It was fancier than the interior of Caius' private airship. 2 gorgeous young girls were sitting gracefully in the carriage. One of them wore a white, jade-embroidered robe and had her silky hair draping down all the way to her shoulders. A jade hairpin was stuck within her bun of hair. Her face was alluring and friendly because of the warmth smile on her face. Those hazel eyes of her exuded an elegant and intelligent demeanor which caused everyone around her to like her instantly. The young girl in front of her was prettier and had sharper features than her. Her red hair was tied up in a high bun and her skin was smooth and flawless. However, she had a certain cold and icy look in her eyes which almost seemed like she could see through anyone and anything. Her posture and aura indicated an arrogant elite demeanor. The girl in white robes whose face was full of smiles asked softly, "Victoria, you seem to be bothered by something. From the moment our journey back to Wuxia began, your expression was so sullen. Be careful that wrinkles don't sprout out since you've been frowning." If Michael was to see the girl, a bloodbath would have happened inside the carriage. This Victoria wasn't the Victoria of Golden Valley sect. This Victoria was the one who pretended to be a farm girl, made Abras fall in love and betrayed him by sending a dagger through his heart. Abras knew her as Emily until General Booth revealed her identity as the Princess of Kingdom Wuxia, Victoria Barnes. Of course, her hairstyle, hair color as well as her dress was way different than the girl Abras used to know. Still, he would recognize the face anywhere anytime. Her face was etched into his very soul, the soul that now merged with Michael and becoming whole. In his memories, the princess wasn't so cold and arrogant back then. In fact, she was a warm and adorable girl in the past. Unlike Michael, Abras had no connection with the outside world. Therefore, she was able to fool him easily with her phony love and sweet talks. "Do you believe in this Lucifer figure?" Victoria asked the girl in white robes softly. The warm smile on Edith's face faded away after her question. A solemn expression replaced her warm smile. "I don't know Vicky. It seemed he appeared when we were in our. I think people are exaggerating things. I don't know if Lucifer is real or not, but I certainly know he's neither the devil nor a god as some claim him to be." "Why do you ask?" "I have this weird feeling in my gut, Edith. Like, something dark follows me." "Huh? What are you talking about?" "Lucifer might be just some punk running around killing people, Vicky. If you ask me, he's either not real or he's a murderous psychopath that Guardians needs to apprehend as soon as possible. Is it a coincidence? Lucifer appears claiming he's the devil after we took over the cosmic stream. What if his sudden appearance and cosmic stream are connected?" Her one eyebrow raised like a sharp sword as she talked. "You are overthinking, Vicky. I heard how you guys took the cosmic stream. If you want to blame something, blame the flu that wiped out the people who protected the stream. No. The flu wasn't natural, Edith. It was made by our alchemists and healers. To subdue the elders protected the cosmic stream." Victoria shook her head gently. Her expression was blank. "Since we are going to be family and form an alliance, you deserve to know the truth." Victoria began to narrate the events that led to the capture of Cosmic Stream. She did not hide anything from her best friend, because Victoria trusted her friend more than anyone. "What?" Edith widened her eyes and spoke in shock. "Why? Why did you do that?" Her hazel eyes contained a tinge of fury. Victoria sighed. "It was not by choice, Edith. I can't tell you everything, but trust me, we were forced. It was either taking over the cosmic stream or cleaning up thousands of corpses of my people." Edith remained silent for a couple of minutes. She took several deep breaths, looking at her best friend's eyes. "Do you regret it, Vicky?" Victoria shook her head. "I feel bad for everyone who lost their lives, but I don't regret it. They could have helped millions of people with the stream, yet they chose not to share with the world, kept it as a secret. Because of what we did, thousands of people are alive now," Victoria replied nonchalantly. "What would you have done in my situation, Edith? Would you have chosen to save them and let thousands of innocents die? Being rulers is not always fancy, Edith. We need to make tough choices such as this." Victoria calmly spoke. "Your sister wiped out an entire army of the orcs to save a kingdom. The orcs were just following orders, but if your sister didn't do anything because they were just following orders, thousands of humans would have lost their lives that day." Edith's pupils constricted as she became silent for a little while before letting out a sigh. "I guess you and my sister are a lot stronger than me. I couldn't have made the choices you two made." "But what about him, Vicky? The guy you pretended to love? What about him? If it wasn't him, I would have done the same to someone else. He was an orphan who was thrown away by his parents. The elders raised him, but a couple of days of a woman's warmth was enough for him to betray them and run away. As far as I was concerned, I gave him a quick death. They all died quickly and painlessly, Victoria said dully. She showed no regret or emotions at all. Her face and voice sounded cold. Victoria remained unmoved and without any sign of emotions, saying apathetically, "Everybody has their own fate. There are way too many pitiful people in this world besides him. Moreover, his death wasn't anything important." After absorbing the energy from the cosmic stream, my father quickly reached fusion stage. If he continues his cultivation, he would enter the immortal stage, which would bring peace and prosperity to not only Wuxia but also to the entire world. Sigh. Edith closed her eyes, sighing briefly. She did not speak for a couple of moments. Enough of talking about my feelings. How do you feel, Edith? I heard you may have met your soulmate. Instantly Edith's face became redder than a ripe tomato. Even the cold beauty such as Victoria gently smiled, looking at her best friend blush. Shut up, Vicky, it's not anything like that. Noah is just a friend. Is that his name? Noah, nice, Victoria said as though she was hearing his name for the first time. Does he know who you are really? Victoria asked as Edith let out a deep breath. If he's just a friend, you don't have to tell him anything. Otherwise, it's better you tell him you are an Alden. Better yet, little sister of Layla Alden, the wielder of angels Vina. 2 hours later, Russell. Among the trees in the forest, a girl was laying on a thick branch up high from the ground. She used one hand as her pillow and the other to cover her face. Her snoring sound was interrupted by a childish voice. Hey, wake up. Fuck, let's just bite her face. Another childish voice of a girl sounded. Snake, wake up. This time, the voice belonged to a boy, but the voice sounded calmer and more mature than the two previous voices. Whoa, the girl yawned as she moved her hand away. Her eyes slowly opened. Didn't I tell you 3 shitheads I need rest? This girl was none other than Gaia herself. She was taking a long nap after continuously flying for 3 days. She was craving for snacks and exhausted. Despite her deep thinking about her mother, she was able to sleep due to her exhaustion. As Ghost always used to say, sleep is not only for the body but also for the brain. She decided to sleep before continuing her journey. She wanted to look at her mother's disappearance with a fresh mind, yet for some reason, the Hydra woke her up in the middle of her sleep. Just as she was about to slap each of the heads for waking her up, her ear twitched a little. Not too far off, there was a faint noise. She turned her head in the direction of the noise to see 6 silhouettes running through the forest. They were wearing complete black clothes along with a wolf mask, only exposing a pair of eyes filled with murderous intent. Not here. Continue to search. That princess bitch dies today. The 6 people didn't notice Gaia on top of them. They just continued to search the forest. What the fuck? Gaia was stunned. Are they searching for you? She frowned after hearing Sarba question. She had the same doubt, but she had no idea who they are except they belong to the Grim Reaper Guild. We better follow them silently. I have some weird feeling about this. She stood up to follow them behind. I can sense the energy fluctuations around them. They are definitely weaker than you, Sarba exclaimed. Since recently, Gaia learned that each of the heads is developing new powers. Iag was able to create a powerful sonic blast that distorts people, while Sarba developed some kind of sense that let him see the energy radiations. With this skill, Sarba could compare cultivators in terms of power and determine their cultivation stage. Only Cain was yet to show his powers, but Gaia was sure his powers would soon come to light. Let's see what these idiots up to. Gaia rolled her eyes. Yeah, and I want to see who that bitch princess they were talking about? Iag chuckled. Gaia took off from the branch into the sky. When she was high in the sky, she was able to see some smoke coming from not too far from her location. It took her a few minutes to reach the place. When she descended onto the path through the canopy, she saw a horse carriage. Surrounding the carriage were many corpses with fresh blood flowing all over the ground. She walked to the carriages and squatted down to look for some footprints if there were any. I hear heartbeats. Suddenly Cain opened his mouth. Hydra's senses were extremely sharper than anyone in this world. How many? 2, Cain said, looking in the direction of the heartbeats. Killing Grim Reapers is always a great exercise to mind and body. It will calm you down, Gaia devilishly chuckled before dashing into the forest. Chapter 405. At the same time, not too far from the stream, under the shade of some tall and old trees, two figures were hiding behind a thick bush. It was Edith and Victoria who barely escaped the Grim Reapers after their initial ambush. However, the two of them looked way different than before because of their disguise. They used the commoners' robes from their space ring and wore them to look like they were from a village. In addition to their raggedy clothes, they also smudged some mud over their fair skin to hide the glow. In their disguise, it would be extremely difficult for someone to recognize them as royalty and noble. The two of them kept looking around with frowns on their faces. They didn't dare to make a single sound. If I only had my cultivation, Victoria gritted her teeth. Whoever put the contract on our head would have sent more powerful reapers, or they wouldn't have put the contract at all, Edith whispered. Both of their cultivation was reset by a powerful spell. Absorbing the energy from the cosmic stream required the individual to start cultivating from the beginning. That was one of the reasons that either of them had no cultivation power. They were just at the arch-sensing stage. Who else knew about our trip? This is definitely an inside job, Edith tightly gripped her tiny hands and exclaimed while gritting her teeth. When I find out who, I'm gonna show how Thusians deal with traitors. An intent to kill flashed past Victoria's eyes. She coldly replied, they are definitely at the core formation stage, I can feel it. She then clutched the dragon pendant hanging around her neck. A dim glow could be seen within the dragon pendant. That doesn't change anything. If they manage to find us. Edith's voice trailed away as her expression became gloomy. Hideo sent a distress signal before they killed him. We just need to hide from them until General Booth comes with the men and slaughters them, Victoria said with a cold tone. Edith's tiny face turned pale in fear of losing some color. What if they didn't get the signal? Vicky, we can't hide here forever. We should make a run for it and look for a village of something. Victoria went quiet for a while and sighed. Edith, their target is only me. There is a village nearby in the north. I will run in the opposite, distracting them. You make a run for the village. Victoria Barnes, Edith frowned. Instead of calling her Vicky as she used her full name with a stern look on her face. Victoria tried to open her mouth but turned into a bitter laugh. She nodded. You've always said that with my personality, you'll never find my guy who would want me. But with your temperament, you are not too far off from me, Edith giggled. No. I was just kidding with you in the past. In reality, many guys wish to court you. If all of them were to line up, they would definitely make a circle around the capital. It's just that you are interested in none of them. They might be the same age as me, but the guys who tried to court me are either spoiled brats or weaklings. The highest cultivation among them was only core formation stage level 4. None of them were qualified to be my prince, Victoria replied unenthusiastically. Edith lightly sighed. Why do you always judge people with their strengths? After you rebuild your cultivation with cosmic energy, no one in the world would be on the same level as you. Alignment of hearts is more important in marriage life than the cultivation stage. Love Vicky. If he loves you and you loves him, it's enough. The two girls forgot about the danger for a moment and started to discuss life. You know, I heard about someone who might interest you. Who? He goes by the name Ghost. Apparently he's a 5-star alchemist in the age of 21 and he's at core formation stage level 10. For a moment, Edith saw a glint of surprise emerge in her eyes. That is somewhat impressive, but I've seen more talented people in R and am sure we will meet monstrous talents where we are going. So if you find someone with the qualities you look for there, you will take him as your husband? Victoria snickered. I will still look for some qualities such as when I need him, he must always appear on time. It's not that I need his help, but he should be at my side when I need him. Edith couldn't help rolling her eyes. For God's sake, Vicky. You are so complicated and stubborn. I doubt I would be still alive to see you get your ideal bodyguard. It's not like I have to get married. Me and my father will reach immortality and rule over Thusia forever. I don't need to provide an heir for the throne after me, Victoria nonchalantly said. Look at your sister. Did she marry anyone? A woman can get married, but it's not a must. Women should learn to live independently without needing a man. We don't need to be married or mothers to be complete. I don't overthink marriage like you, Vicky. If I love someone and he loves me as much as I love him, I'll marry him and be happy. Victoria, with creased brows, said, I'm not against marriage, Edith. I'm just saying it's better to marry the right person later than the wrong one earlier because our families force us to whoosh. At this time, amidst their conversation, an abrupt movement could be heard from the woods ahead. What the fuck are you two doing here? Edith felt a chill running through her spine when she heard the sudden voice coming from behind. They immediately turned around to see a golden-haired girl wearing a gray long coat and black turtleneck and black leather pants walking towards them. On her back, they saw a longbow and quiver filled with arrows. She wasn't as beautiful as either of them, but Edith noticed a grace in her movements. Her golden hair danced around her shoulder as she walked towards them. As they were staring at the girl, a man wearing a creepy wolf mask jumped out of the trees. The man looked at Victoria and Edith for a few moments. He looked as though he was scanning them. Thanks to their disguise, the Reaper failed to recognize them. However, the Reaper thought Gaia was the princess they were searching for as she looked clean and nobler than the other two girls. You! The masked Reaper raised his hand at Gaia. You, what you? Gaia mimicked the Reaper's voice to make fun of him. Meanwhile, Edith was standing by the side with face still in astonishment. Victoria was also surprised at the girl's courage to make fun of the Reaper. The Reaper was furious as he leaped at Gaia with the dagger in his hand. In the mid-air, he cast a spell that enabled his dagger to be enveloped in bluish fire. Bang! The very next moment, Edith and Victoria saw the Reaper's head explode into red mist in the mid-air. They were unsure of what just happened. When they looked at the girl, she had the long bow in her hand instead of on her back. They were stunned by her lightning-quick speed. They did not even see her taking out her bow, knocking an arrow and fire at the Reaper. Space ring. Gaia noticed the space ring in the Reaper's hand. She ignored the two girls to go loot the body. After Gaia walked some distance away, Edith suddenly snapped out of her astonishment. She looked at Victoria and said, Vicky, did you see that? She killed the Reaper just like that. If we could ask for her protection, we might be able to escape from here. Victoria frowned, creasing her brows. If I, the dignified princess, were to put down my pride and seek protection from a stranger, it would taint my name. Also, this Reaper might be a scout with weak cultivation levels. Edith, General Booth would have already received my distress signal and is coming here to over. We should hide for a little while more. This forest is so far from the outpost, Vicky. Even if General Booth has sent help, it would take a very long time for them to reach here and locate us amidst the forest. Edith thought for a while and suddenly laughed. Vicky, I have an idea. What if we tell her the truth and tell her we would pay her handsomely if she escorts us to the outpost? After Victoria listened, as if a little swayed, she knitted her brows and contemplated. No, Edith. She shook her head. No time for arguing, Vicky, follow me. While talking, Edith pulled along her hand and walked towards Gaia, who was busy looting the Reaper. Sister, could you please do us a favor? Edith asked with a pleading tone. Just get out of here before more of these assholes come here. Gaia didn't even turn back to look at them, which made Victoria clench her fist in anger. Gaia would have recognized them as nobles if they hadn't resetted their cultivation level. According to Sarba, they were at the arch-sensing stage. Therefore, coupled with their disguise, Gaia really thought the two girls were commoners. However, very quickly, she hid the bitterness. Her eyes regained their apathetic look and her expression became icy cold once again. Regardless of Gaia's behavior, Edith continued to plead. To be honest, my sister and I are working for a young noble in the city of Cadena. A few days ago, we came out to collect herbs for our young master but were attacked by these guys on the way. They seemed like they were searching for someone. They killed the servants and guards, but we managed to escape up till this point. The young master has an outpost nearby. Could you please protect and escort us back to the outpost? If we manage to return, the young master will definitely give you a satisfying reward. Whoosh. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as Gaia was about to answer, she saw 4 Reapers leaping out of the darkness and surrounding them. Chapter 406. The 4 Reapers who surrounded Gaia had their gazes locked on Gaia. They were all wearing wolf masks, hence Victoria and Edith couldn't see how they looked behind the mask. The repairs weren't sure whether the girl in front of them or the two near the bushes were their targets. However, just to be sure, they decided to kill all of them. Energy Whip. One of the Reapers quickly cast a spell as sparkling blue energy whip materialized in his hands. The whip produced a crackling sound of electricity. Shield of Shadows. Another Reaper cast a spell that formed a thin layer of dark smoke around all of the 4 Reapers. It was obvious this was a defense spell, but Gaia couldn't care less. She was at the core strengthening stage, and these Reapers were just at core formation level 4 or 5 according to Sarba. Lightning Arms. The third one cast a spell as the Reaper's hands illuminated blue because of the lightning bolts coiling his arms. Gaia patiently waited for them to finish casting spells. She wanted to evaluate how powerful she has become after breaking through to the core strengthening stage. The best way to find out was to battle and push herself to the limits. She wasn't worried about getting herself killed though. If she couldn't defeat 4 core formation stage Reapers with her core strengthening stage cultivation, she wasn't worthy of being her mother's daughter, and certainly wasn't worthy of being with Ghost. What about you? Aren't you gonna cast any spells? Gaia asked the Reaper who hadn't cast any spells yet. The Reaper remained silent as Gaia cracked her neck. Victoria and Edith were stunned. If Victoria was in the girls' shoes, she would have attacked them before they could finish casting spells. It was the most sensible strategy. Gaia would have also done that if she didn't want to assess herself. "Suit yourself," said Gaia. "Shall we start?" The moment these words escaped Gaia's mouth, the Reaper with the energy whip in his hand leaped at her. He swung the whip violently as she immediately leaped into the air, evading the whip. Boom. In the mid-air, she shot an arrow into the ground beside the Reaper. They reached her target within a second. It exploded, creating a muffled booming sound. Soon thick white smoke began to emerge from the place where the arrow hit. "Fuck," she cursed at herself. Instead of firing an explosive arrow, she mistakenly took the smoke arrow from her quiver. The thick smoke enveloped the area a few seconds after. "Edith, this is our chance." Victoria immediately grabbed Edith's hands before running in the opposite direction of the Reapers. Because of the smoke, the Reapers didn't notice the girls running. The smoke irritated their eyes and almost completely blocked their views. Surprising. Right at the moment, a figure was standing on a tree branch from quite a distance from the Reapers and Gaia. The figure wore metal armor covering his chest and legs, but he exposed his beefy arms. If one was to see him at the moment, they would definitely think of him as a predator because he wasn't a human but a beastman. A rare breed of beastmen, striped tiger. His orange, shiny fur had black stripes which gave him the look of a Bengal tiger. This man was tasked to find Gaia by Zanali. He was one of the best trackers in the world. His services cost millions. For Zanali, 1 million gold wasn't a big chunk. With his tracking skills and superior senses, he was able to follow her scent to a broken portal in a ghost town. Then her scent disappeared as Jacoby could guess she had traveled to another realm. He was waiting for her to come back as his instincts told him she would. "It seems like she's wearing a mask to disguise herself, a powerful magical artifact," he said, licking his claws. On the other side, Gaia had no idea she was being watched. After firing the smoke arrow, she dashed away from the attacks of the Reapers. Currently, only 2 Reapers were attacking, the one with the whiplash and the other with the lightning bolts-covered fists. The whiplash one swung his whip from a distance while the other one leaped into the sky to fight her in close combat. In the mid-air, she fought the Reaper. She used the bow to avoid his lightning bolts-covered fist. The bolts of lightning reminded Gaia of Ghost. However, compared to Ghost's Ignitia spell, the lightning spell the Reaper cast was weak as hell. Both of them kept exchanging blows as Gaia managed to avoid the whip while fighting the Reaper. Pathetically weak, after a few minutes, Gaia memorized the Reaper's fighting style. Hence, she was able to form a deadly counterattack. While dashing left to avoid the whip, she saw the Reaper throwing an upper hook at her. She was expecting it as she simply bent back to avoid the punch. Then with a lightning-quick movement, she took out an arrow from her quiver and stabbed the Reaper in the neck. Each. The Reaper let out a muffled cry. Although the Reaper had a dark shield to absorb attacks, it wasn't powerful enough to completely save him from her stab. The warrior trait enabled her to infuse her arch energy into any weapon she wielded. Only the warriors were able to infuse 100% of their arch energy power into their weapons. This special trait allowed a warrior to inflict maximum damage without casting a spell. Michael was able to infuse his arch energy power into his swords because of the dual-wielding skill he bought from the system. Even he wouldn't be able to infuse his arch energy power into every weapon like Gaia or any other warriors without the special trait. Her core-strengthening arch energy broke through the shield covering the Reaper. Blood sprayed out of the wound as Gaia twisted the arrow to end his life. The Reaper fell out of the sky dead. After killing the Reaper who fought her in close combat, the rest of the Reapers became an easy target for her. Of course, if she used her spells, the fight would have ended in a few seconds, but she always avoided using her spells as much as she could to avoid revealing her identity. Mateo T. The Reaper who cast the shields around them tried to cast another spell. But his spell casting was abruptly stopped by an arrow through his throat. Bang! Another arrow impaled his head before even he could grab the arrow sticking through his throat. The next second, the arrow exploded along with his head. The red mist above a headless body put a smile on Gaia's face. The remaining two Reapers stared at Gaia without moving a muscle. For a few moments, the area was filled with an awkward silence. Only the noises of crickets and the rustling sound of the dried leaves could be heard. Elemental bang. The one who remained without casting a spell finally opened his mouth to cast a spell only to get struck by Gaia's explosive arrow. The Reaper looked down at his chest and saw an arrow sticking through. He tried to remove the arrow, but it exploded with a loud bang. "You are a summoner, nice killing ya?" Gaia saluted him with 2 fingers, chuckling. The last remaining Reaper who had the whip shivered in fear. It was too late for the Reapers to realize her true strength. The whip in his hand dematerialized quickly. He tried to turn back and run, leaving the party soon. Too late, fucker. Bush. As the Reaper was running for his life, Gaia rapidly fired arrows one after another. Each of the 4 arrows hit the running Reaper with deadly accuracy. Taking an arrow to each leg, one in the back and one through the head ended the Reaper's life in a matter of seconds. After killing all the Reapers, Gaia descended to the ground to loot their bodies. "So those bitches made a run for it, huh? Damn it, what about my reward?" She looked around, cursing the girls. She then made her way towards the last victim of hers to loot the body when her ears twitched. Boom! Just as she was about to turn her head in the direction of the rustling noise, she was hit by a powerful blast of energy. It was not lethal, but it sent Gaia flying. She hit the tree before falling onto the ground. Her strong physical strength saved her organs, but it couldn't prevent her from getting mad as hell. She immediately kicked herself up to see a 7-foot beast man standing near the dead Reaper with a chain in his hand. "Whoa, you are one ugly cat." Gaia cracked her fist. "Hey, you both seem to be on the same level," she heard Sarba whisper. Surprisingly, it sounded like the voice was coming from her voice. Astha Sarba was talking to her through telepathically. "Says the snake in human disguise?" Jacoby said in a gruff voice. Gaia was stunned by his words. She was about to deny when Jacoby spoke again. "Gaia Ashton, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Either way, you're coming with me to meet your stepsister?" Jacoby swung the silver chain in his hand. Gaia noticed the glowing symbols on the chain. It seemed like the chain was strengthened by runes, which would be problematic if she was tied by the chain. "Is that so?" She snickered. "Tell my sister she can go fuck herself." "Oh wait, you can't, because you're gonna die." As these words escaped her mouth, she removed the satchel with Vidora in it and put it on the ground. The very next second, an emerald green smoke enveloped her body. When the smoke disappeared, a 7-foot purple cobra with a terrifying presence stood before Jacoby. Chapter 407. Gaia's instincts told her the beast man in front of her shouldn't be underestimated. Hence, she transformed into her true form, which enhances her power by multiple folds. Any weak-minded person would have been scared to death if they had seen Gaia's true form. She was terrifying with her shining dark purple scales, the 2 long fangs, the blood-red eyes with pitch-black vertical pupils. Except Jacoby wasn't a weak-minded person at all. In his life of hunting criminals and wrongdoers, he dealt with countless terrifying people who were more terrifying than her. Apprehending a criminal didn't completely depend on the cultivation stage. If it did, he wouldn't have been able to catch criminals more powerful than him. Hunting was an art, and he loved to hunt the predators. Hunting a more powerful prey was always more stimulating. Every hunt required Jacoby to be prepared to the maximum. He was taught not to underestimate the prey because even the weakest prey would become powerful when it was pushed into a corner. He was provided with tools and accessories to hunt even the stronger prey. In addition to tools and accessories, Jacoby had the knowledge of every strength and weakness of all races including Nagas. For instance, Nagas were extremely dangerous in close combat. They would spray their poison to surround themselves. If the foe was trapped within the poisonous cloud, the foe would rapidly lose strength, which would lead to the ultimate death. Poison cloud. Gaia hissed as the thick jade-green poison gas shot out of her mouth. The poisonous cloud surrounded the area within a couple of seconds. However, Jacoby didn't even budge. Gaia noticed a translucent mask on his face which covered his nose and ears completely. Gaia hissed before slithering aside while carefully watching Jacoby. Her vertical pupils were locked on Jacoby. Jacoby suddenly swung the chain in his hand at her. The chain flew towards her, making a sharp ear-piercing sound. She quickly dodged the chain as the chain hit the tree behind her. The poor tree exploded into countless wooden splinters. Both of them were stunned. Gaia was surprised by the speed of the chain while Jacoby was surprised by the speed of her reflex. Poison flame. Gaia dashed at him, breathing dark green flame. The stream of green flame burnt everything it touched to ashes. Jacoby ran as fast as he could from the fire. He wasn't afraid of using the trees to climb and leap to another tree like a monkey. Gaia's aim was perfect, yet Jacoby was able to avoid getting roasted by the flame because of his agility, extreme training, as well as the innate ability he had as a big cat. As a beast man who belonged to the tiger family, he inherited all the abilities of a cat. The green flame torched every single tree that it touched. Soon, a 5-meter radius forest was burned to ashes. Considering there was no canopy above them, the moonlight lightened up the place as though it was a giant chandelier in the sky. Cough, cough. Gaia's green flame finally stopped coming out of her mouth. The next moment, she coughed a couple of times. Jacoby immediately swung his chain at Gaia yet again. In a split second, she tilted her head sideways to evade the chain. She was quick enough to avoid the chain, but the chain managed to graze her neck. Her purple scales were scorched by the chain. The scorched scales became darkish black, losing their purple shine. Moreover, she felt excruciating pain. Bang! The chain grew longer in size in the midair and hit the tree behind her. Just like before, the tree exploded into countless pieces. As they were battling, Vidora peeked through the satchel to see what was happening outside. "Look, a giant cat," Ag whispered. "Shug." Kane shushed her immediately. Bang! 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 The two of them continued to battle as the sound of explosions reverberated the forest. Gaia spit balls of poison at Jacoby while he kept swinging his chain. Both of them were at a stalemate. "Fuck, we have to help her." Ag tried to move but only to be stopped by Kane. "No, that beast man has no advantage over her yet. If we reveal ourselves, he would capture us and use us as hostages." Although Kane's words made sense, Ag couldn't stay still and watch Gaia fight alone. She gritted her teeth, feeling a surge of power building within her. "Don't do anything stupid, Iag." Kane's voice became cold and serious. "Iag, he's right, he always is," Sarba said before quickly turning his gaze towards Kane. "Do you have any idea to help her?" "Your poison reserves will soon be empty, Princess," Jacoby exclaimed. He sounded like he was amused. The smugness on his face indicated that he enjoys the thrill of hunting. "Shit," Gaia cursed. Jacoby saw she finally stopped breathing flames. He jumped down from the tree with a smirk on his face. He could see her breathing heavily as the shininess on her scales dimmed down, which meant she only had a little bit of arch energy left in her body. As he was walking towards Gaia, she slithered backward. Her vertical pupils became round. "Fuck this," I'm gonna help her, I tried to jump out. But Cain and Sarba stopped her from moving. She bit Sarba on the neck in anger. Cain quickly headbutted Iag with enough force to make her let go of Sarba's neck. It's over, princess. You put up a good fight, not impressive but meh. Jacoby grinned for the first time since he came. Gaia looked tired. Saw him coming towards her with his chain swinging in his hand. Rather than throwing the chain at Gaia, he kept walking towards her. Since she was weak and exhausted, he thought he could simply apprehend her without wasting the charge in the chain. After tying a person using the chain, it required 1 month of charging before it could be used again. Jacoby didn't think it was unnecessary to use the chain on Gaia and wait a month. He could use this month of time to hunt another one, the big one, Lucifer. As Iag struggled to jump out of the satchel, Jacoby almost reached Gaia. He stood a few meters away from her with a smirk on his face. Ignitia! Suddenly Gaia shouted, firing an emerald green lightning bolt at Jacoby. Bang! The bolt of lightning was way faster than Jacobus' reflexes. The lightning bolt sent Jacoby flying for several meters before he hit the tree and fell down. His chest armor had a hole in it as he felt excruciating pain. He looked down to see the fur on the palace where the lightning bolt hit and got charcoaled. The smell of burned hair slowly permeated the air. Whoa! That's Ghost's spell. When did she learn that? Sarba was surprised. Ignitia! 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 On the other side, Gaia kept firing bolts of lightning one after another at Jacoby. Several bolts hit him precisely. If it wasn't for his strong physics and the armor, he would have been dead by now. He kept running chaotically. The shininess on her scales came back. He couldn't help cursing at himself when he saw the shininess on her scales return. Obviously, she used some kind of technique to pretend she was exhausted and fooled him. I never wanted to do this, you pushed me. Jacoby growled while running. Shit shit shit, Cain suddenly began to curse. The other two heads were confused, they had no idea what made Cain upset. As far as they could tell, Gaia was kicking Jacobus' butt. However, soon they realized what made Cain upset when they saw Jacoby running towards them. They quickly put their heads back into the satchel. Fuck! Gaia realized what was his plan, but it was too late for her to stop him. With a final leap, Jacoby landed near the satchel. Just as she was about to dash towards him, he grabbed the satchel. Jacoby saw the look in her eyes. She was worried sick. His guess was right. When he was watching her fight the Reapers, she kept touching the satchel with one hand. Then they started the battle. She didn't throw away the satchel but gently placed it on the ground. He noticed how she cared for the satchel. Evidently, he came to the conclusion that she has something she cares about within the satchel. What do you have in here? In his hand, the satchel seemed so little. Gaia's heart was pounding against her chest as he grabbed the satchel. A pet it seems. Jacoby felt something inside squirm against his hold. He was curious to see what was inside, but first, he wanted to apprehend Gaia before opening the satchel. After all, he didn't want another surprise from her. Transform and kneel. Jacobus' thunderous roar echoed through the forest. She hesitated as he started to squeeze the satchel with his big hands. No! Gaia quickly transformed herself back to her human form. She was shivering in anger, yet compared to the life of Vidora, her anger seemed worthless. Tiger Punch. He cast a spell that formed an ethereal fist of a striped tiger behind Gaia. The very next moment, the fist hit her in the back with enough force that stomped her to the ground. She growled as blood started to drip down from her mouth. He then flicked his wrist. The ethereal fist moved according to the flick of his wrist. It grabbed Gaia before picking her from the ground. Her eyes were blood red in anger, her entire body was shivering. But she controlled herself for the sake of Vidora. After making her kneel, Jacoby let out an arrogant grin. The chain once again materialized in his hand. Game over, snake? As he said, he swung the chain at her. She closed her eyes instinctively. She expected to feel something, but nothing happened. The chain never touched her. She opened her eyes to see the chain remain still as though it was stopped by something in the midair. She looked up to see a hand holding the chain. The anger in her eyes immediately disappeared as her eyes began to water up. Her lips curved upwards. Finally, She heaved a sigh of relief. Her heart pounded against her chest. This time, it was because of joy. Ghost. Chapter 408. Michael held the chain in one hand and looked down at Gaia. A gentle smile merged on his face regardless of the burning anger within his heart. I will take care of this. With the other hand, he ruffled her head playfully, then he stepped forward, shielding her with his body. Jacoby furrowed his creases. He didn't sense or hear someone coming, rather he just suddenly appeared behind Gaia. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 6,000 badass points. Jacoby wasn't threatened by his appearance though, because he did his research on Ghost. Jacobus' plan A was to separate Gaia from Ghost and deal with her alone. His job got a lot easier when he met Gaia in a zair far away from Ghost and her friends. The sudden appearance of Ghost would make apprehending Gaia difficult as he would have to either subdue Ghost or kill him. Nonetheless, it wasn't impossible. He would just need to switch to his plan B. Put that down. Michael's voice was rough. It was filled with cold, murderous intent. Seeing the blood dripping down her lips, he was on the verge of losing control of himself. Xianxia, the bolt of lightning, hit Jacobus' wrist with deadly accuracy. He dropped the satchel in pain. So quick, Jacoby was completely stunned by his speed. Gaia quickly reached out her hand towards the satchel as the satchel came flying to her. Michael did not cast any spell but walked towards Jacoby with absolute killing intent in his eyes. Boom. Before even Jacoby could finish his spell casting, Michael appeared in front of him and punched him in the gut with enough force to send him flying. Arg! A deep fist-shaped dent formed by Michael's punch in Jacobus' armor. The armor was forged to endure a tremendous amount of attacks. Yet, a single punch deformed the armor. In addition to the dent, Jacobus felt the pain of his ribs breaking. He tried to pick himself up when Ghost dashed at him again. Boom! This time, Michael kicked Jacoby in the gut. The force of the kick sent Jacoby flying yet again. He hit a tree hard before falling down. Rage Shield. Ignoring the sharp pain in his gut due to the kick, Jacoby cast a defense spell. Immediately, a glistening fiery red bubble materialized around him. Without giving Ghost the time to cast another spell, Jacoby jumped up to stand on his feet. He saw Ghost was walking towards him with his fist clenched. Jacoby noticed the half-moon in the sky. The area should be bright, but everything around him was darker than it was supposed to be. Tiger Claw. Fist of Justice. Elemental Spikes. Jacoby cast spell after spell. The first spell formed a crimson-red claw the size of a grown elephant directly above Michael. On his side, a fist the same size as the claw materialized. As the name suggests, the Elemental Spikes spell sent sharp spikes made of elements such as fire, ice, earth, and lightning. Boom! Boom! Simultaneously, the claw and fist hit Ghost. Jacoby saw Ghost neither move nor evade to avoid the claw and the fist. The force of the attacks created an ash cloud around Ghost, preventing both Gaia and Jacoby from looking at Ghost. Wind Blast. Jacoby suddenly heard Ghost's voice. The very next second, a gust of strong wind blasted away the ash cloud. Ghost revealed himself. There was not a scratch on his body. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 2,000 badass points. Jacoby couldn't believe what he had just seen. Looking directly into Jacobus' eyes for a second, Michael raised his hand. Xianxia, 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 Xianxia. Several bolts of lightning shot towards Jacoby. He tried to evade them and he did manage to avoid one, but when he avoided one bolt of lightning, another hit him in the ribcage. The moment of slowness resulted in Jacoby getting bombarded with lightning bolts. Michael focused on his limbs, especially on his legs. Arg! 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 Jacoby kept growling. No matter how hard he tried to escape, he simply couldn't. His rage shield was penetrated by the lightning bolts like a hot knife cutting through butter. There was no stopping the lightning bolts. Instead of going for the kill shot, Michael kept barraging Jacoby with lightning bolts. His fury found no bound when he saw Gaia kneeling. Jacoby was just a core strengthening stage level 2 cultivator. On the other hand, Michael was at level 3, which made him stronger than Jacoby by default. With all his spell upgrades, he would be undefeatable to anyone under core strengthening stage level 5 in his ghost persona. In his complete Lucifer form, anyone under core strengthening stage level 7 had no chance of defeating or even hurting him a little. The distance between Jacoby and Ghost grew shorter and shorter. Still, Michael did not stop attacking him with lightning bolts. All of Jacobus' assessment of Ghost became wrong, way wrong. He was being overpowered by Ghost and saw no chance of escaping unless he could use the chains on Ghost and render him powerless. Suddenly Jacoby used all of his strength to grab a handful of sand beneath him before throwing it at Ghost's face. It was an underhanded technique, but everything was fair in a life-or-death battle. Ghost momentarily closed his eyes as Jacoby immediately called out the chain. In a blink of an eye, the chain materialized in his hand. He wasted no time as he immediately wrapped the chain around Ghost. He ran the chain around him a couple of times to make sure he was tightly tied. "You!" Gaia burned in anger. She was just about to dash at Jacoby when she saw Ghost rip off the chain as though it was a hemp rope. There was no slow motion, no fancy movements, and no dialogues. He just ripped off the chain in a second. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 3,000 badass points. The chain lost its glimmer in his hand. What? Jacoby cried out in shock. Arg? In his momentary shock, he received an elbow to his gut from Ghost. The next moment, Jacoby was being wrapped around by the chain. Pow, 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 pow. Michael grabbed Jacobus' throat and began to punch him in the face with all his strength. The blood spurted out more and more with each punch. The skull of Jacoby began to cave in. The light of life slowly faded away, yet Michael did not even slow down the speed of his punches. He lifted Jacoby from the ground while punching him. In his fury, he was walking towards Bam! Michael slammed Jacoby against a tree as the large tree shuddered. It lost almost half of its leaves due to the force. One could see Michael's eyes flicker in red. The rage Michael kept within him exploded like a volcano. Even Gaia, who was enjoying the beatdown, began to freak out when she saw Ghost keep punching Jacoby mercilessly. The Ghost she knew before leaving for the Fire Realm would have killed Jacoby by now. However, he just kept going. He even began to miss his punches. Those missed punches landed onto the tree. The tree caved in because of his punches. Arg! The cry didn't come out of Jacoby but from Michael. He was in rage mode. The lingering light in Jacobus' eyes enraged Michael. He wanted to beat Jacoby to death. Because of his rage, he failed to notice the small grenade appear in Jacobus' hands. Human! Gaia, however, noticed the grenade. She shouted, dashing towards Michael. However, it was too late as the bomb exploded with a loud bang. The ear-piercing sound coupled with a bright flash of light disoriented Gaia. She stumbled down. For a few moments, the world around her spinned unstoppingly. Fortunately, the bomb Jacoby used was a stun grenade. While Ghost and Gaia were in a disoriented state, he mustered the leftover strength in his body to run. The first thing he did was chug a healing potion. The punches broke his jaw, but he still managed to drink a healing potion. Obviously, one healing potion was not enough, yet it gave him enough strength to run away. The healing potion he drank was extremely powerful. It was brewed by none other than Ghost himself. He was dashing into the forest, and just when he was about to take off, an invisible energy force blasted him off. Arg! Jacoby growled. He was just a few minutes away from escaping. Only, suddenly out of nowhere, a gruff voice echoed through the forest. The next moment, a large dragon descended through the canopy and landed directly beside Jacoby. The dragon stomped Jacoby as he spurted out mouth full of blood. I can hit her. Jacoby struggled to breathe under the feet of Nightmare. Jacobus' eyes opened as wide as they could. He began to struggle violently because he saw the dragon's body begin to glow brighter and brighter. It was the indication of the dragon's breath. Argyegarkai. Jacoby lost his calm composure. When the dragon's breath came out of Nightmare's mouth, he screamed like a scared cat. His scream of agony reverberated the forest. Although he was a core strengthening stage level 2 cultivator, he was injured by Michael to the point of death. Coupled with that point, Nightmare was able to overpower Jacoby with his core formation level 6 cultivation. His superior physical size and strength gave him an advantage over Jacoby. Finally, the dragon's breath ended Jacobus' life. Chapter 409. The moon was showering the land beneath with its sparkling blue light. The millions of stars generously provided their light, partnering with the moon. Under the two natural light sources, the forest remained in silence. Except for the songs of night crickets and the rustling of flora, there was no sound to be heard. In the scorched area of the forest, Michael and Gaia were standing on opposite sides. They spoke no words for a few minutes. Their eyes were locked onto each other. Either of them had so many things to say to the other. However, no words came out of their mouths, at least from Gaia's mouth. Her eyes watered with a mix of joy and worry. She was afraid of how he might act. After all, she disappeared leaving a simple letter. Michael noticed her core strengthening stage level 2 cultivation. Granted, he expected her to become stronger, but at the moment, he couldn't care less about cultivation levels. He was glad and elated to see her back in one piece. Snaky, Michael smiled, breaking the silence between them. Human, Gaia just dashed at him as fast as she could, dropping the satchel with Vidora in it on the ground. She came running to him before leaping at him like a tiger. She wrapped her legs around his waist and hugged him with all her might. He returned the favor as he hugged her as tight as he could. Both of them embraced each other without any intention to let the other go. They both missed the warmth of the other. Deep down, both of them yearned for the other one's touch. All of their senses were having a blast. They took in each other's smell, touch, warmth, and embrace to the fullest. Gaia frantically began to shower him with kisses. The stubble beard did not stop her from landing passionate kisses on his cheeks. She cupped his face and kept kissing him without uttering a word. Vidora crawled out of the satchel to see Michael and Gaia locked into passionate kissing. Soon she changed her target from cheeks to his lips. Her kiss was fueled with passion and wild, heated love. He could not hold back as he ran his fingers through her hair to grab her by the head. He pulled her closer, flaming the fire of their love. They savored each second of the kiss. Nothing bothered them for long minutes. They forgot about their worries and enjoyed the moment. Gaia pulled Michael towards her with both her hands and legs that wrapped around his waist. While the lovers were enjoying the passionate moment of tenderness, Nightmare's vertically slit pupils became rounded, noticing Vidora in the distance. Immediately, Nightmare shrunk himself to the size of a puppy before running towards the three-headed Hydra to welcome them back home. For Nightmare, Cain and Sarba were the little brothers as Iag was a bratty little sister. He loved them dearly and they too loved Nightmare. Iag, Cain, Sarba, Nightmare reached Vidora in a few blinks of an eye. "Hey brother," Sarba greeted Nightmare with a wide grin. Chapter 410. Yes, do that. Michael willed the system to create an invitation for Gaia. He could face the problems thrown at him by others, but it would be difficult to face those problems when he was dealing with a problem within. The third persona problem had to be solved before doing anything. "So your mother is still alive?" Nightmare asked Gaia. She sighed, but several seconds after deep thinking, she reluctantly nodded. "I think so. Human, do something and bring me with you to the Ukulun realm. Let's go beat the crap out of that elf. He might know a way to get there without the invitation." Since he told her about the invitation he received to join Mazeroth, she wanted to come with him to the Ukulun realm. She was completely stunned when she first heard him. Perhaps it was luck or perhaps it was a coincidence. Either way, Gaia was surprised to the core. "Getting you to the Ukulun realm is not a problem," he shook his head. "The problem is dealing with Zanali and hiding your identity." After spending 100,000 badass points on creating an invitation to Gaia, he had 60,000 badass points left. The special rune which would hide Gaia's identity cost 200,000 badass points. Therefore, he needed 140,000 badass points immediately. He could earn that if he remained in Elon and made an appearance in the alchemy competition. However, time was of the essence. The longer he spent in Elon, the more problems would occur. Gaia was not safe anymore. The best way seemed like visiting the Ukulun realm with Gaia, finding the dark elf Gaia's mother told her about, trying to find answers, and leaving the realm as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.